Hello, everyone, and welcome to
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the YouTube show Tuesday Night Trek. Its mission: to catalog every piece of Star Trek media, to keep alive the spirit of Gene Roddenberry, to boldly go where no YouTube show has gone before.
to Tuesday Night Trek. I am, of course, Master Paul. I have Mike Pacific 414 with me, as well as of the Primetime Kings, Baron Orman Tag. And welcome back to another Tuesday Night Trek. So, we didn't have one, we tried to have one last week, I'm sure you guys remember, and it just ended up being bad. Like, we were having all sorts of internet issues. I outright froze out a couple times, so we had to stop that stream. And admittedly, this stream very nearly turned out to be another one, but thankfully I had the good fortune to reset my internet, so everything seems to be working now. Just gotta keep on our toes for it. But anyways, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Yeah.
Awesome. So tonight's plan is we are talking not just about episodes. Whoops, sorry, that's Animation Friday stuff.
I was going to say
We're not
Water
just-
War.
Yeah, that's from Clone Wars Season 4. So we are not just talking about episodes 6 through 10 of Next Generation Season 4. We are also talking a little bit about Conan the Barbarian, which I saw last Monday for the first time with Crit and Phil McCracken and all of them. I wanted to review it this past Wednesday along with the Trek stuff we were talking then, but obviously that didn't happen. So we're going to do that tonight. So real quick, let's go ahead and, as we always do, look at each of these 5 episodes, and you guys just sort of shoot on them and just give your individual thoughts. So the episodes are, and I'm building the headers for them now: Legacy, Reunion, Future Imperfect, Final Mission, and The Loss. And Pacific, you can go first. What do you think of these 5 episodes?
They're all very good episodes. I'd say they're a little above average for this block of 5. Now, I will say there are some episodes I kind of favor more than others. Final Mission is actually a very good episode in my opinion. And then, of course, Legacy, it ties back to a character who we no longer see.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at these episodes and I can sit down and watch all 5 of them at any time. And, of course, Reunion, well, we are introduced to a new character, but we also get to meet someone else.
That is true.
And really, I'm just going to keep it short and sweet on that.
Okay, fair enough. And then the other episodes, Future Imperfect, Final Mission, and The Loss.
Yeah, Future Imperfect, that's one of those episodes where I don't hate it, but it's never been one of my favorites. And
Okay.
I'll get into it when we are talking about the episode as to why it's never really been one of my favorites.
Okay, fair enough.
And The Loss, it's a Deanna Troi episode.
Okay.
Which means for you what?
Which means, okay, I'll sit here and I'll listen to the B plot and forget about the A plot.
Fair enough. All right, Baron, your thoughts on these 5 episodes?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we're going into, starting with the 3rd season into this part and then going into the 5th season. The strongest episodes, strongest stories that you had consecutively of Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's not one of those hit and miss. 1 week you have a great one, next week and a couple weeks you have, kind of like the first season. When it comes around to, of course, Future Imperfect. Well, I'll get to that one later, but Legacy. Here we're seeing, of course, like he said, a new character coming in, only appearance, unfortunately, but ties into an old character that was in the show, and how Data has to respond and react to it. It's, rather fascinating on there. But you finally had a Wesley story you could actually like with Final Mission, and it took.
And funny, it's his last one as a regular.
Exactly. It took this long for them to finally do something right with the character. And it's just on its way out. It's like, why couldn't you guys have done something like this earlier and, save things a little bit for the young schmuck? I like Future Imperfect for many reasons in that one, which, of course, I can expand upon when I take on Mike down there in wrestling form. He and I in the ring there as we go head to head, talking about Future Imperfect and how he doesn't like it and think it's one of the best, and while I sit back and think it's a strong episode, I'm going to go right over those ropes. I'm going to right after you, Mike, on that one. And
that's
of course,
fine. That's fine. Bring it on, Baron. Bring it on.
And the loss, again. I've always felt Deanna Troi has been one of the weakest characters of Next Generation. When they were going to off a character in the first season, a lot of us fans were kind of hoping it was her. When the rumors are coming out that one of the cast members is going bye-bye. And of course, it ended up being Tasha Pookie Yar, as Jonathan Frakes called her. But it's a stronger episode for her, hitting on some areas what happens to a character when something happens. So again, these are some pretty strong episodes. Even if you consider someone weak, it's still going through a consecutive run. Unfortunately, it has to come at a time when Gene Roddenberry's Mr. Mouse. He's making his demand of at least screen time for a little bit. He's got that as contract. But it takes Gene Roddenberry, unfortunately, not able to be at the helm of the show because of his health, and the others take over to finally get us some strong Star Trek. Mm-hmm. And this is the spirit of Star Trek. We're getting out of Roddenberry Star Trek. Roddenberry Star Trek that, unfortunately, at the end here was kind of muddled and frayed and worrisome, and going into more of the spirit of what the original Star Trek was like. Right. In this aspect. So,
real quick, I heard a puppy barking in the background. What was that?
Yeah, that is Duchess the Toothless Doxy. That's my puppy. Okay. And I don't know what she's barking at, but she's in the other room through a closed door. You can still hear that little terrible monster of mine. We have a zoo over here. We got 3 dogs and 1 cat. So
nice.
Not including me. No.
Nice. Meanwhile, here in this room, I could pretty much set up a guitar store if I wanted.
There you go. Go to the Master Paul's Guitar Shop and Pick Museum. This Friday, sale.
So, real quick, since you just mentioned your guitars, have you ever looked at what it quoted Wayne from Wayne's World going, "It will be mine. It will be mine."
Not out loud. And maybe not those exact words, but there's been many a guitar that I have been like, one day I will have you. Funny enough, that's kind of what happened with me today, and I put it on layaway. I already showed you what it was.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I might be able to bring it up here on the screen. I just got to send it to myself.
You know what he was doing, Mike? He was wrapping himself around the guitar going, "My precious."
Nah, I wasn't doing that. I was just playing it. All right, where is it? But anyways, while I'm getting this picture ready, my thoughts on these 5 episodes. I agree. All really good episodes. Even the loss, I do, but then again, I'm biased because I like Deanna Troi. And yeah, I think if I was to order them, I might start doing this every episode. If I was to order them from favorite to least favorite, favorite is going to be the reunion, no questions asked. Least favorites, probably Legacy. And then second favorite would probably be Future Imperfect. then The Loss, and then Final Mission.
Yeah, I forgot about Reunion.
By the way, here is the picture of what will soon be my newest guitar. That is called a PRS Silver Sky, the affordable edition. It's the John Mayer signature model, and I know what you're thinking. Yes, that is pink, but I think of it more like it's cherry starburst colored.
Yeah, they try to get away with that too with the pink Cadillac or pink Thunderbird, but they called it salmon. So
I know it's pink, but you know what? Whatever.
hey, you like it, you like it.
I do.
It is a sharp-looking guitar.
Thank you. All right, well, enough distractions. Let's go ahead and get on into the episode, starting with Legacy. So the premise.
Dun, dun, dun.
So the Enterprise is called to a distress signal by this one Federation freighter that is having that's basically on the verge of self-destructing. And they find themselves going into the path or into orbit around Turkana 4, which Picard notes in his captain's log as being the home world of Tasha Yar, their late comrade. And real quick, I just realized I forgot to say hello to people in the chat. Hello to DJ Ronnie G. Hello to you, Pacific. Hello to the Admiral, Nerdporial Lifeform, who says, I'm sorry, I am totally behind on TNG. Reunion is awesome. Great follow-up to Sins and the Father. 100%. Yes. And Action Com, hello, says, I'm in my car, but I'm here. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
So who's driving?
He's probably driving, which don't drive distracted. I got a ticket for that once. So anyways, they have to go to Turkana 4 to find 2 crewmen from this freighter. And it's funny enough, the episode starts with another poker scene. And it seems like it's just a standard poker scene, but really it's just showing that Data is learning more and more about sort of the intricacies, you can call it, of being human. Like, he's getting harder and harder to bluff by Riker. He notices, he looks at him because, of course, Data, being completely emotionless, he just sits there with this stone face. Action Com says, I got both feet on the wheel, don't worry about it.
Awesome. Way to go, guy. Yeah. That's how you do it.
Exactly. And in the game, Riker falls for one of Data's bluffs, but then gets him back by basically playing a pick a card, any card type of game with him. And Data mentions, you know what? This game was rigged against me from the beginning because you knew what my card was and you knew how to get me there. So you could almost say that was like Data acting like a sore loser. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think it's showing Data, learning about humans a little bit more and, realizing in his own way that he can be tricked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which, funny that you mentioned that, because that's kind of the theme of this episode. Spoiler alert. Because it's at this point that they get the call that they have to rescue those 2 crewmen from Turkana 4. And so Riker, Data, Worf, and Dr. Crusher, they beam down as the away team. And it's noted that, number one, there's no one living on the surface anymore because Turkana 4 has been in the midst of a violent civil war. Their government has completely fallen apart. And there's also certain gangs that start with an R and end with an ape that I won't say for fear of getting canceled. But yeah, in fact, I like even the scene where it's like Worf is like, you probably shouldn't be coming with us on this one, Doctor. And Crusher's like, shut up, Worf, I got this.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they beam down to the surface, and they, in a sense, kind of beam right into the middle of a turf war between two factions that we later come to know as the Alliance and the Coalition. And what's really interesting about these people is they have a sensor, a motion sensor, no, not motion, proximity sensor, implanted in their chest right about here. And it's supposed to be programmed to tell when one side is close to the other to hopefully drive them away. But it really doesn't work like that. If anything, it's like an intruder alert that's literally built into their body.
Mhm.
So the Alliance and the Coalition, admittedly, I can't tell them apart. So we'll just say that the good guys are the Coalition. The Coalition take the away team into shelter and basically explain their situation, that yes, your crewmen are down here, they're being held in ransom by the Alliance, and the Alliance will destroy them. Because another thing that's important about this is that ever since Turkana 4 pretty much started this civil war, they've broken off all ties to the Federation. And the last ship, I believe they mentioned it was like, 17 years ago, to visit Turkana 4 before the Enterprise, was the Potemkin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even been said that the Turkanans made a threat saying if any other Federation vessel visits us, they will be put to death. And ActionCom pretty much sums it up here. One likes vanilla, the other likes pistachio. Which, side note, eating pistachios raw out of the shell is amazing.
Yep.
Salty, but amazing. So anyways.
I'm a peanut guy. Let's go at it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start a war. I'm a peanut guy. Let's go for it.
Hey, they're all nuts.
No, peanut isn't. It's a legume. I'm nuts.
All right, so moving on. The Coalition agrees to help them rescue the two crewmen in exchange for weaponry from the Enterprise. Quote, the Enterprise isn't going to miss a few phasers. And Worf pretty much nails it on the head, saying, that is no better than a ransom decree. And Phil McCracken, referencing my recent Skyrim playthrough, is hashtag justice for redheads. Yeah.
And Phil.
And Phil, I'm not reading that I'm not reading that one on stream, but yeah, y'all can read that.
I'll say it. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll read it, but I won't say it out loud.
I read it. Mm.
All right. So, anyways, here's a hashtag for you, Phil. With a spelling mistake. My bad. And yes, ActionCom war is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Ugh.
All right, so Riker basically says, "Okay, I'll think about it," and the away party beams back aboard, and they're talking it over with Picard when they get a communication from the planet, from the Coalition, and they're introduced to Ishara, who is Tasha Yar's sister. Now, remind me, older sister or younger sister to Tasha?
Younger
sister. Okay, fair enough. And basically, it's decreed that the younger sister, Ishara, will be the liaison to the Coalition that will basically help the Enterprise in any way that they can, as long as the Enterprise is willing to help back. And of course, everyone is amazed that they're meeting someone related to Tasha Yar in any way. And of course, Ishara makes it pretty well known that she does not think very highly of her sister. And the reason why is because, as she puts it, Tasha was a coward that ran away from the fight on their home planet to go and join Starfleet. But they don't 100% believe that Ishara is Tasha's sister. So Dr. Crusher takes some DNA samples from her and matches it up to that of Tasha. Meanwhile, they're continuing. Phil McCracken, there's only one true baseball team in Chi-Town. It's the White Sox. Phil, you are asking for it so hard right now.
No, that's all right. Phil and I have come to an understanding, and we're cool. We're cool.
But then again, I can't comment because I'm a former Yankee fan.
Hiss, boo, hiss.
Boo, boo, boo. Get out of here. I'll take over the show now.
I don't have a team anymore. I got out of baseball. I got out of all sports when I joined the Navy, but that's another conversation.
I should get out of baseball with the way the Cubs are playing this year, but I can't quit them.
I wish I could quit you.
Action Cop says, I respect the team that can take bribes. Ooh, hot take. All right, so they're going over their game plans for how to get to the two crewmen that are deep in Alliance territory. And eventually they come to an idea of basically navigating these certain tunnels to get to them. And so they attempt that, but during the mission, Ishara gets shot down, and Riker has to go and rescue her, which he does, pretty much against his better judgment. And they just barely make it out of there. And he's talking about this later to Picard, and he justifies it saying, I was in charge of the away team that got Tasha killed, and I couldn't bear for the same thing to happen to her sister. Although Picard points out correctly that is an emotional response, and we can't afford very many of those. So what did you guys think of that whole situation?
I thought it was great.
So it's the older commander passing on wisdom to the younger up and coming officer. I mean, even though Riker at this time, he's in his 30s now, but he's still, again, taking a page out of the Star Trek Phase 2 handbook, where he had Kirk supposed to be mentoring Decker. This is a perfect example of Picard mentoring Riker, and showing that command decisions are hard, and sometimes you have to make decisions that you just hate, but you have to do it for the betterment. You can't let your feelings and all that get in the way, because that could cause even worse situations to happen.
Right, exactly. And by the way, I just realized something. Decker rhymes with Riker.
Mm-hmm. And Will, remember, you had Will Decker, Will Riker.
Yeah.
I mean, there is yeah.
That's not even subtle.
Not subtle at all.
Yeah.
So.
By the way, Pacific Action Com says, unfortunately, my team is the Pittsburgh Pirates. Hitting me.
I understand where you're coming from. I know what you can say about the Cubs, but I understand it's frustrating. But let's not dwell on that. It's Tuesday Night Trek. Let's talk about these episodes of Next Generation.
Yes. Let me just end it with this. You're getting Reservoir Dogged. Let's just put it that way. Okay, let's get back to the story here.
All right. So Ishara, during all of this, is in sickbay, getting bandaged up, and the results of her DNA test come back, and it is confirmed she is the younger sister of Tasha. And during this whole time that she's aboard the Enterprise, she starts getting really close with Data, asking him a whole bunch of questions about what Tasha was like, how did she die, and I believe Data even went as far as to mention she died pretty much at the whim of an evil entity just showing off its power, which is pretty much what happened.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time, it seems like Ishara is starting to warm up to the idea more and more of being part of Starfleet. She even mentions it at one point, I believe, to Data. And of course, Data is all for it. Of course, all of the crew is all for it. But what they don't know is that Ishara sneaks off to the briefing room and has a secret communication with the leader of the coalition. And all we hear her say is, "It's working." So basically, she's just winning over their trust for her own gain.
Mm-hmm.
So they come up with a new plan to beam in closer to where the crewmen are. And this involves them drilling through the ground with the ship's phasers to get through a bunch of rock, and B, it also involves Ishara surgically getting her proximity sensor in here removed, which she does, and we see what it looks like. It literally looks like a yellow kyber crystal, and the plan goes through. However, during the mission, by the way, hello to Coffee on Korriban, who says hello, family. Hey, man. And he's like, tap that like button. No tapping. We're hardcore here. Smash that like button. No, I'm just kidding. Or tap.
Lock
do
on
what you
to
want.
that like button and subscribe button and fire.
Engage. So during the mission, Ishara goes rogue and starts setting this one reactor to explode. And of course, Data chases after her, not sure what she's doing. And it's revealed the whole time Ishara was just using them for her own gain. That she never intended to join Starfleet. She only cared about destroying the Alliance. And Data felt, at least in his own android way, betrayed. But of course, the explosion is stopped just in time by, I believe, Riker. He intervenes.
Mhm.
And she's taken back aboard the ship into custody. So they're able to get their two crewmen out of there, and the episode ends. With a conversation between Ishara and Data, where Ishara says, "Not everything that I told you was a deception, and I'm sorry that I hurt you." To which Data replies, "I'm an android. I can't be hurt in that way." But let's face it, clearly he was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And she's standing on the transporter pad, and she tries one last time to say, "I love you," and Data just says, "Energize," and just sends her away as if it was nothing. And then after this, he goes to Riker, and I forget who said this. I think someone said this last time on the stream. It might have been you, ActionCom. That basically through this, Data sort of inadvertently learns about cynicism, because he questions Riker. "I trusted her, and yet she betrayed me. Is it better not to trust anyone?" And Riker's like, no, that's not at all what your lesson is here. It's that, yes, when you open up your trust to someone, you invite the opportunity to be betrayed. But by the very nature of our job, we still have to trust people. And that's pretty much how the episode ends. So what did you guys think of all of that?
It gives you a valuable life lesson. You may be betrayed by other people in your life. People might, turn their back on you, but you can't let those incidences affect the rest of your life. You have to learn to trust other people. Give them a chance.
You're exactly right. Baron?
Well, trust is earned. It's not given freely, and people have to earn that trust. And once that trust is broken, it's hard to get that trust back. And
Mhm.
a person has to remember that just because that one person did this to you doesn't mean everybody's going to do that to you. Bringing in trust is actually a very vulnerable thing, and data. It's kind of funny. I keep on sometimes going to saying data because that's what he was originally going to be called. It was Patrick Stewart that sat back and said, "No, it's data." But he's also starting to learn of that lesson too. That there's a vulnerability to this. There's a little bit of a vulnerability that he was starting to learn with The Naked Now when Tasha says it never happened. At that time, it's like he's still innocent. It's like, eh. But now he's dealing with her sister, played brilliantly, by the way, by Beth Torresant. I can't remember if that's how you pronounce her name. She later went on to go to Babylon 5, for those who don't know. And I wish that she would have been Tasha Yar. That would have been better Tasha Yar. All across, we finally see. We only had a little flashback of what this world was like from Tasha Yar in the first season. Just a quick little blurb of this hellhole that she grew up on. Now we actually are seeing it and experiencing what she escaped from, which we're happy that she did, but unfortunately sad that she went the way she did. So it's a learning experience for Data. It's a learning experience for Riker. He has to learn on there. So all across the board, everybody is learning on this aspect. And it would have been actually kind of interesting to see the character come back again in some fashion or another in Star Trek The Next Generation, or even DS9, maybe being part of the Maquis or something. But I think that was kind of a wasted thing not to have continued on with her character and a more mature Data afterwards encountering her. With the whole situation, that would have been great.
Yeah. Apparently,
she shared his wife.
Okay.
But she also played, I believe, shared his wife. But she was replaced by Melissa Gilbert.
Okay.
Later on in there. So.
By the way, random question: What would you guys say? What would you guys say to between once we're done with Voyager, taking a break from Star Trek before we get into Enterprise, and we cover Babylon 5?
Yes.
That is another thing.
There we go.
That is another thing that I admit I have never seen. In fact, before I found Echo Base Network, I'd never even heard of it.
Oh, that's a shame. Because as we kind of go along here, it's going to be brought up again, Babylon 5 tonight.
Be right back.
It will be. Okay. It will be brought up again. So that'd be great. I'd love to tackle B5.
I'd love to revisit Babylon 5 with Paul and everybody on the panel and, just have a great conversation about another great show that is often overlooked by a lot of people.
It really is. And, it suffered because it was on the P10 network, for one, which I don't think had as wide range. I think a lot of people narrowly are thinking, we don't need to watch another science fiction show, which hurts bringing out new science fiction shows. I got Star Trek. What do I need this show for? We need everything. I mean, if it's not your thing, it's fine. But, give it a chance. That's all I got to say.
Because what was great growing up when Deep Space Nine was on and Babylon 5 was also on at the same time is being able to watch the shows back to back when I was growing up in San Diego. XCTV Channel 6 had the shows on back to back. So I always like that. Because you have two different writing styles, two different universes, but it all works.
Right. It really does. And there was some crossovers between Star Trek and Star Trek Next Generation and Babylon 5 in both series. So
there was? How so?
I mean, a crossover of people, actors and actresses.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Fair enough.
You have Walter Cohen showing up in Babylon 5. You also have Majel Barrett showing up on Babylon 5.
Which was a major thing. It was a major ripple in science fiction fandom when she showed up on the show.
Michael and Sarah, as I recall, showed up on Babylon
Mhm.
5.
Like he was in everything. He was Buck Rogers, Star Trek. He was all over the place. What a great actor he was. Oh, I miss him.
So real quick, Phil, I know I promised I'd show you my Galaxy's Edge lightsaber. I forgot to earlier, so I'll make it up to you here live now. Here it is. This is like I said, the elemental nature one. And here I'll even put the blade in it for you and turn it on. It has the green crystal, which is the one that I chose. Now, compared to like my lightsaber, this is nothing. This is pretty much a fancy stick that makes noise. I can't fight with this. It's very wobbly. It's very chunky around here. So these days it's just a display piece. But here it is. And of course I do have hit one of my guitars. Of course I do have a red and blue crystal for it also. So Phil, I hope you're happy.
And that guitar you hit is half off now at Master Paul's Guitar and Museum.
Yep. And he says, "Oh, you're so nice. Now get a green shirt for Star Trek." I would love to, but first I want to lose some weight so I look good in it. All right.
Scant. You need to wear 4 seasons scant.
Yeah. All right. So rankings for this episode. I'm gonna go 3 out of 5 for this one.
3.5 out of 5.
I'd say, 3, because 3 means is still a solid episode. Sure, you're not going to always have 5s and 4s, and the 3, it's watchable. You don't feel gypped or you don't feel shorted on that. You don't think you're getting chances out. Again, like I said, it's stronger storytelling. It might not have been the best one, but it definitely was not the worst.
Yeah. So, like I said, not a bad episode at all. I just like the other episodes in this block better. So yeah, with that, let's move on now to Reunion. So this episode starts where the Enterprise is just doing a random routine science mission when they're interrupted by a Klingon battlecruiser decloaking, and they're being hailed by this ship, and who should show up but Ambassador Kalar, who we first met, by the way, in The Ambassador back in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And Worf is not happy to see Kalar again because, of course, what happened with Sins of the Father, he's had discommendation put upon him because he was framed for the crimes that his father had allegedly committed by aiding the Romulans with the attack on Khitomer. But Picard pretty much sets him straight, saying, "Listen, whatever happened between you and the Klingons, you are still a lieutenant in Starfleet, and you are still my security officer, and I expect you to do your job." By the way, hello to Tim's Talk, who says, "Spock is not on today. I know, it's unfortunate, but hopefully next week."
Spockless.
Yep.
In space.
So Worf goes to the transporter room to wait for Kalar to beam aboard, and he's surprised when he hears that 2 people are being brought aboard. Real quick, Tim Talk says, "I love the ramen noodle people." Do you guys know what he's talking about? Because I don't.
Perhaps the Romulans.
Oh, okay. The Romulans. Fair enough. That's next episode that we'll be getting into them a little bit. So yeah, Worf is surprised to hear that 2 people are being beamed aboard. And who should beam aboard but Kalar and a Klingon child. And of course this is Kalar's son. And they drop him off at daycare aboard the ship. And there's a very awkward conversation between Kalar and Worf, where Kalar's trying to be like, so how you doing? Aren't you happy to see me? And of course, Worf is like, I can't even be around you right now because I don't want you to share in the same disgrace that I have. And Kalar even acknowledges that there's a certain question that Worf has been wanting to ask, but Worf just simply is not willing. And she even says it out loud, like, what should I tell my son that he has no father? So it's revealed right there that this child, Alexander, is the son of Worf. So what did you guys think when they revealed that?
Well, it was a nice reveal. It was a nice follow-up to the emissary as far as what happened in the holodeck.
Dang, those kids grow fast. That's a 2-year-old Klingon.
Well,
I
of
don't think it was just that. I think it was more like 5 years almost.
Well, that was second season. We're in the fourth season, so if a Worf and Kalar did the the Klingon bath with Mambo Jumbo at that time, you got yourself the pregnancy period, and then now here you are 2 years later. This is one of the things that unfortunately episodic TV has a problem with. They start bringing in characters a lot older than what they're supposed to be. But then again, you can write it off the fact that this is a Klingon. We don't know how fast they grow up. So
I'm looking this up for sure now. I'm trying to see.
I don't think it was ever fully approached on that. But I mean, really, you take a look at the age.
I think the actor that played Alexander in this episode was only 3 years old at the time.
That was 3? Oh yeah, it's saying that now. He was 3 years old during the episode reunion.
Okay.
But at the same time, he talks like a 5-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just strange.
It isn't though?
Yeah. In Action Com, this is another quote from the episode. Not even a bite on the cheek for old time's sake.
Oh, how romantic. Isn't it romantic? Kind of like dating to Mike Tyson. I go for the air.
Action Com says, according to star dates from Emissary, it should be no more than 1 and less than 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that something just isn't adding up, and we'll be here all night thinking about this. So moving on, the whole reason that Kalar is even here, aside from wanting to see Worf and introduce him to his son, is because Kempek, the leader of the Klingon High Council, is dying, and Kalar is here to help Picard basically arbitrate who's going to be his successor, be it Galron or Duras. And
yes, Galron,
or as I call him, Crazy Eyes.
Oh yeah, he's got him.
He does.
Yes. Okay, real quick. Action Com says emissary stardate 42901.3, reunion stardate 44246.3. Okay. Thank you. I'm still bad, admittedly, at reading star dates, but I'm learning. So, Kempek has a meeting with Picard, and you can tell like he is weakened very much from when we last saw him in of course Sins of the Father.
Mm-hmm.
And Picard at first he wants nothing to do with any of this. He's like, no, I can't do this. I'm completely unprepared. But Kempek sort of twists his arm figuratively, saying, look, if you don't do this, it'll be perceived as an insult from the Federation to the Klingons, And so Picard's like, fine, I'll do it. And then it's revealed that why Kempek wants Picard to do it, because he has suspicions that one of the two candidates, we'll call them, is the reason why he's dying, because his wine that he likes to drink is poisoned. And by the way, there's no cure for it, so he just continues to down the stuff, because why not at this point? But he wants Picard to figure out who it is that's poisoned him, so that they don't become leader. And of course, it of course piques Picard's interest to learn that Duras is one of the candidates, because Duras, I'll remind you guys, was the guy who basically helped the Council frame Worf, when in reality it was his own father that betrayed the Klingons to the Romulans at Khitomer. So Duras and Gowron are on their way to meet with the Enterprise to undergo the ritual. Meanwhile, of course, Worf is continuing to at least attempt to bond with Alexander. But it's clear that even though Alexander does have some Klingon instincts to him, like, for example, when his building blocks gets knocked down, he growls at one of the kids like a Klingon. But when Worf talks to him, he's pretty much the same as any human child. It's like Worf tells him, a warrior does not act this way. And he's like, but I don't want to be a warrior. And, he's asking why to everything that Worf says. And, of course, Worf at the end is like, a warrior does not ask so many questions.
Yep.
And he goes and he takes Alexander back to Kalar, who, of course, treats him the same as a human mother would treat her child. Because, again, reminder, Kalar is half human. And that would make, Alexander, having a half-human, half-Klingon mother and a full-blooded Klingon father, that would make him a quarter Klingon.
No. 3/4 Klingon.
Three-quarters.
A quarter human.
A quarter human. And of course, Worf is upset at the fact that, because he is Klingon, he should be taught the Klingon way, but Kalar hasn't been doing that. But of course, Kalar's like, no, I want him to grow up to be his own person. And Worf is still like, why didn't you tell me this sooner? And Kalar's like, because I know how you would react. You would have insisted that we take the vow right here and now. And Worf's like, yeah, you're pretty much right. I would have. But Worf also says, I can't acknowledge him, though, publicly as my son, because if I do, my discommendation and all of the humiliation that comes with it would be foisted upon him. And he just...
dishonor.
Yep. So what did you guys think about all of that?
Oh, it shows that Worf doesn't want his dishonor passed on to anyone else, not Alexander and not Kalar.
Yeah.
He wants to bear it alone. It's just like in the episode Family. He didn't want to discuss it with his adoptive parents because he felt it was his dishonor and his dishonor alone. But these two episodes show that Worf has people that care about him, and they don't care about the dishonor by the Klingon Empire because they still love him for who he is.
Yeah. And I think this was when we were talking about the episode Sins of the Father. Someone, it may have been someone here on the panel or someone in the chat, I forget who, that basically says Worf, because he grew up with human parents, sort of overcompensated by like overly embracing his Klingon heritage to the point that even certain Klingons are like, whoa, dude, you're going a little far with this.
Mm-hmm.
And this episode so far has been the best example of that, because here you have Kalar, who is half Klingon and has been living among the Klingons now at least since the emissary. And she's like, I don't care about your discommendation. You know, this is your son. Acknowledge him as your son. You guys understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, part of it kind of goes a little bit of how they did a little bit of the shallowness of the Klingons, and that's the one problem I did have with Next Generation is they almost made them into caricatures of the space barbarians running around, and it's like, well, there's got to be other classes in society. Are you not going to have it? You have your agricultural, you have shop owners, stuff, diplomat like KLR, and all we ever see is warrior, except for the few like KLR coming in here as an ambassador. I mean, this would have been a perfect example for her to explain that he doesn't have to be a warrior. There's many other honorable jobs to do with Klingon. Being a Klingon is not all about being a warrior. And throughout the entire 7 years of Next Generation, they missed out on that, and just basically had such a monodimensional look of the Klingons, which always upset me. And I think I said the last time I was on, you had more diversity in a society with the original Star Trek series than you did with Next Generation. I mean, and she's just perfect playing this part and just egging Worf on. I mean, just egging him, almost trying to, come on, lighten up a little bit. Quit having that batleth up your keister. See, I said keister this time.
Yes, you did.
So, and of course, Susie Plaskin is such a great actress, and as you probably know, she played the Vulcan doctor in the second season as well.
Yep, Lieutenant Salar.
Yeah,
who we should have gotten more of, by the way.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, it's like they should have brought her back and continued playing that part, because she was just wonderful in there. And of course, Charles Cooper as Kempek. I mean, this is like the apology for Star Trek V, since the father in this. So, I mean, everyone's pulling out such great performance on that one. And a little bit.
Hold on a second, Baron. Hold on, I got to interrupt you.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
You said it. You mentioned Star Trek V. I have to play this.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question. What does God need with a starship? I said, what does God need with a starship?
Jim, what are you doing? I'm asking you a question.
It's not just Phil that triggers it. Anyone could.
Well, let's face it, it is a bit of an apology tour for Charles Cooper. Was a great actor.
He was.
So, I mean, it's nice to see the little playoff between her and Worf, and we are seeing that, especially when we start seeing the other Klingons in there, how stiff he is compared to the other Klingons. Yeah. It's nice to see that they are sitting back saying he's overplaying it. He's being way over the top. It's like,
oh yeah.
And no, that is nice to see.
So after this, it comes the first part of the ritual, where we finally see Duras again, who of course is not happy to see Picard. He's just kind of sneering down on him. And of course, when they're meeting over FaceTime on each of their bridges, Duras also notices Worf. He's like, keep that Patak away from the ceremony. He has no right among us. And Worf just has to bite his tongue and just shrug it off. But anyways, on the bridge of Kempek's ship, because by this point Kempek is now dead, we also meet Gowron for the first time. And I think outside of Worf, Gowron is my favorite Klingon.
Of course he is. And he will remain that.
Well, wait until you start getting further along and see more characters introduced.
Oh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially DS9. Especially with DS9.
Oh, yeah.
And I know Gowron does feature quite a bit in DS9, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yes, he does.
Oh, yeah, he's in there. Oh yeah, he's in there.
He's the leader of the. Well, I won't say it yet.
So, but anyways, though, you were kind of impersonating there. One of the things I like about Gowron is just the cool and calm way that he speaks. For example, at the end of the first part of the ceremony, where they prod the body of Kempek with essentially these supercharged cattle prods to ensure that he's dead, Picard makes a remark saying, "We will do this according to Klingon law." And he pretty much says it just like this. Gowron says, "What do you know of Klingon law, human?"
What do you know of Klingon law, human?
Like it's so I love that.
I've always loved Robert O'Reilly's portrayal of Gowron, and this starts it off, and it just gets better and better every time he shows up.
Mhm.
Yeah, like
I mean, oh, sorry.
I know just by looking at I guess you could call them the thumbnails on Amazon, I know he's gonna pop up in what's the episode called again? I know he's gonna pop up in the two-parter Redemption, because
Mhm.
I'm looking at it right now on Amazon. I can see him in the thumbnail for part 1.
Yes, he does show up.
Future.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And of course, ActionCom mentions, not to mention Gowron's horrific smile. There's his smile, but at the same time, it's the eyes that everyone knows. It's like it's always just
Mhm.
like someone clipped that, I'm sure. Oh,
Yeah,
by the way, hello, Crit. What's up, man?
I was working today and I forgot we were doing Trek.
I gotcha.
Um,
Well,
but I'm lucky I didn't rewatch these because me and Cash kind of got winded. But I do remember them. So
okay. So then, real quick, before we go any further, would you like to shoot on Legacy?
okay, Legacy.
And go ahead and give your score out of 5 for it.
Legacy. I gave it a 2. Was it a 2 out of 5 or?
Yeah.
Yeah. I really was bored. I thought Tasha Yar's sister was hot, and I kind of don't remember it. Oh, the only good part about it was the ending with Data, but
Yeah.
it kind of felt like budget Judgment Day. So
Okay. So now we're talking about Reunion, and we're at the part where we first meet Gowron, and they're poking the dead body of Kempek with those hypercharged tasers. But before we go any further, do you also want to shoot on the first part of this episode where we meet Alexander, we find out that he's Worf's son, and we find out Worf's reasoning for not embracing him as his son?
Worf had his warrior duty. He had that mentality, but in truth, his human side, he's not human, but he's learning through Kalar to accept. He's like he wants to accept him, but he doesn't want him to be in shame.
Right. Which, again, as we said before, is one of the ways that Worf kind of overdoes it as a Klingon, where some Klingons are like, dude, you're taking this a little far.
And then I also really like Kimpek's death, and the Klingon part of it is just really great.
Yep.
Ronald D. Moore.
By the way, hello to Stovepipe Down Tube. Thanks for joining. And then final question, what was your first impression of Gowron?
I really like Gowron. Crazy-eyed Gowron.
Mm-hmm.
They picked the right actor for it. It was just such a great intro. You don't know much about him either. He's kind of just there with those eyes.
Yeah.
But that scene with Kalar spoke so much.
It did, absolutely. So, like I said, they're poking the dead body of Kempek with these hypercharged cattle prods. And it's worth noting that when Duras takes his turn, because first Picard does it, then Galron does it, and Duras goes last. And Duras basically holds it on the body for a few seconds longer, as if he enjoyed inflicting that pain upon Kempek if Kempek were still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Which pretty much, said it right there, that Duras was the one that was responsible for Kempek's death. But as they're wrapping up this portion of the ceremony, and Picard's going over how the next part will be them, will be on the Enterprise, and of course Duras is impatient, like, no, name us the combatants now so that we can face each other. Suddenly a bomb goes off. And all the main characters, of course, survive. A few random Klingons do die in the process. But this adds another layer to proceedings, because now the Enterprise and the two respective Klingon ships have to investigate what happened. And so, to allow for more time for this investigation to happen, Picard, under the advice of Kalar, I forget what the Klingon name for this process is. Pacific, I'm sure you remember. Basically, each of the candidates have to list off every single one of their victories, accomplishments, accolades, all of it. And it's a process that would take hours, if not days. Do you remember what the name of this is, Pacific?
Not off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Crit?
I'm trying to remember. I think it's the Jachish.
Yes, thank you.
Bless you.
Baron, is there an entry in your book there about that?
No, they don't really have anything, because these are very brief summaries that they have in here. They don't really get into the core and meat. That's why it's not cheating. It's just it's good to have a little bit of a refresher on a certain little things, but it doesn't get right into the meat and the crux of the episode. But you could sit back and call the first part with the pain sticks. You could call that almost Stand By Me Star Trek edition. Hey, you want to go over to the Klingon ship and book a dead body? On that one. But what's interesting to note that, again, like I said, you were talking about the Space Vikings. What they're promoting to do with listing the accomplishment was something actually in the Viking Age a person would do, and they list off what their accomplishments are, what they're able to do. Not necessarily even battle. I can sew, I can do this, I can do that, I can hunt. So again, there's a little bit of that tie-in with okay, let's go with the Space Barbarian and take this out of the Viking culture.
Okay. So while all of this is going on, they're continuing to investigate what happened. And of course, Worf is continuing to bond more with Alexander. And this, I believe, is the first time on screen we ever see a Klingon Batleth, which I'll actually pull up a picture for one now for those that are not familiar. Which, by the way, I would love to have a replica of one of these at some point. But this, I have the picture now. This is a Batleth.
It's a warrior's weapon.
It is it's a small picture, but that is I'm going to try and make it bigger, actually. There we go.
It's a smiling sword.
It's a smiling sword, yes. You hold it by one of those three handles. The sharp parts are actually within the inner parts of the curve, and of course, the tips are also sharp and spiky. And I like how Worf says it, because, of course, Alexander wants to hold one, and Worf says, don't think of it as something you're holding. Think of it as part of your hand, part of your arm, part of you. And just, like, the different moves he transitions into, of course, demonstration purposes, but the different moves he transitions to, like the different ways you can hold it, attack with it, block it, it looks amazing. Now, Pacific, as probably the resident Klingon fanatic out of the four of us, do you own one of these?
I wish I did, but unfortunately, they no longer sold them at Star Trek The Experience because of legal reasons. Because
Really?
according to the guy I talked to when I last went to Star Trek The Experience before it closed, because it's designated as a sword, they wouldn't sell it because people do crazy things with metal objects and sharp objects, and they weren't going to run the risk of being liable for anything.
Tell me about it.
I see. Well, I can tell you right now, I just looked at Etsy, and you can get one made of steel for $171. I'll put the link in the private chat.
That's not bad.
No, depends on what the steel is. Is it Krupp steel? Is it stainless?
I didn't look that much into it. I would expect it's something for display purposes only. Obviously,
Yeah.
you're not going to take this thing out and actually go into battle with it.
Dang.
Unless somebody comes into your house.
It would make a good wall decoration, I'm sure.
Imagine somebody coming into your house. Today is a good day to die.
Yeah, here I am standing in my underwear because I'm out of bed with that thing. It's like that'll scare anybody away.
Yep, and then you successfully, we'll use the term, defend your home, and you stand, raise the batleth over your head, and shout "Kapla!"
Kapla!
I defended the honor of my family and my home.
Now, I think the batleth was actually created for the show by an actual martial artist. So they're actually trying to make it so it would be a practical weapon as well as something that'd be sci-fi.
It's funny you say that. ActionCom says the batleth was an extension of a Chinese hand weapon that you held in your fist. If you can find me the name for this weapon, ActionCom, I'll look it up. And ActionCom also says, have you ever been in a mall that had a knife store in it? They sold those over the counter. Oh yeah, I've seen plenty of those, especially in Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. There's a lot of those knife stores there. In fact, I got a Keyblade there from there.
I think even museum replicas sold a batleth for a while.
So, anyways, moving on. There's also a certain point where Picard brings Worf into the ready room, and they have a conversation about what Picard's really doing here. And Worf wholeheartedly believes that Duras is the one responsible for Kempek's death. Although I think it's cool that he said, "I know nothing of Gowron, only that he is an outsider that oftentimes questioned the council." So that just, again, sort of lets you know what sort of person Gowron is.
It kind of told you a lot about the character in so little words. He's that unknown entity that was, that buzzed around and caused little problems here and there.
Yeah. Everything okay?
Yeah. My cat decided to knock my glass over.
How much did you spill?
Yeah, well, I don't know, enough. Bad mouse.
Nothing's
How
hurt.
dare mouse spill your Klingon blood wine?
Oh, yeah, he did. Time to take the cat out and give him some Klingon punishment. Go to the dogs. The dog's with you. Bark.
All right. Real quick, actually, I wonder if they classify Klingon knives as switch. I don't think so.
No. Because you already got that big nut blade that's out there.
Yeah. So, continuing on, basically, Picard takes what Worf has to say to heart, and again, just reaffirms to him, listen, especially with what's just happened with this explosion, this could be of a threat, not just to this ship, but to Starfleet, in which point I will really need your help investigating this. And this leads to basically the end of the Zhajich, I think you said it, where both parties have listed the full length of their accomplishments. And now Picard changes the subject to be like, okay, let's talk about this explosion. What have you guys learned about it? And of course, both sides are like, it was an explosion. It was a bomb. Oh, thank you, Stovepipe. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, according to Wikipedia, the bat'leth is based on a weapon called the Chinese fighting knives, also called deerhorn knives.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look that up. While we were going, I'll keep talking. And of course, they were like, okay, it was a bomb, so what? At which point, Worf is brought in by Picard, and of course, both Gowron and Duras are like, what is he doing here? He's been discommendated. We can't have him here. And Picard basically says, sit down, shut up. He may have been discommendated, but he is still my security officer, and he's here to do his job. At which point, Worf questions them further about the explosion, where it's revealed that the explosion was caused by, I forget what the term is, but basically it was a bomb that had a detonator that only the Romulans would have used. By the way, here's what a deerhorn knife looks like. Doesn't that just look Klingon?
Mm-hmm.
It does. It's a warrior's weapon.
It's a warrior.
Mm-hmm. Of course, I'd rather have a real bat'leth over that, but that still looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a junior size bat'leth.
Yeah, that's what
for the tots.
That's what little Klingons start with.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, beginner level.
Yep. So Duras, of course, he reacts the worst to Worf being there. But another thing that's... Oh, yeah, thank you, ActionCom. A molecular decay detonator. That's what gave it away that it was Romulan. And that's what led everyone to start suspecting Duras was indeed the one responsible for being the one to cause that explosion, because he pretty much admitted, if I remember correctly, in Sins of the Father, that his father pretty much was the one that sold out the Klingons to the Romulans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, pretty much he's now, if he wasn't already, suspect number one. But another thing that's been happening this whole time is that Kalar has been trying to get down to the bottom of what exactly happened with Worf. How did he receive discommendation, and what happened basically that initially he challenged but gave it up. And at the same time, she got approached by Gowron saying, listen, this whole process is taking a long time. Speed this up and I'll make it worth your while. You be an idiot and you'll suffer the same fate as Kempek. And in the end, Kalar even tries to get access to the documents of the Klingon High Command to find out what exactly happened. And this alerts the Klingon High Command, who then in turn tells Duras. And Duras then goes and confronts Kalar. Now, while that's happening, we get some more bonding time with Worf and Alexander, where I believe Worf was showing him the holodeck, and they're on their way to Kalar and Alexander's quarters. But when they get there, they find Kalar slumped over a chair, an absolute bloody mess. And by the time that Worf calls medical emergency and gets people from sickbay down there, she is dead. She only manages a few words. She manages to bring Worf and Alexander's hands together, before she dies. And
Mhm.
Worf is aghast with grief. And we saw him do this twice before in, I forget what, let me look it up real quick. It was in season 1,
Mhm.
Heart of Glory. That's what it is. In the episode Heart of Glory, when the 2 Klingon fugitives were aboard the Enterprise, we first learn about something called the Klingon death cry, where they basically put their hand on someone's head and just roar up into the sky. And apparently that's supposed to symbolize to Sto-vo-kor, watch out, a Klingon warrior is about to arrive.
Mhm.
Worf does that again here, but compared to when he did it in Heart of Glory, this one has way more pain and anguish to it. And so, what did you guys all think when you saw Kalar die and Worf's reaction to it? Oh, there's one more thing I forgot. After he does this, he turns to Alexander and
Yep.
says, you've never seen death. Look now and always remember." And of
Very
course,
powerful, and that will come back in the future.
will it now?
Yes.
Mhm.
Wow. So yeah, just what did you guys think of all of that?
Powerful.
Wonderful, powerful.
Right. I mean, rightly so that it'd be more impactful for Worf in this time than in the Heart of Glory. He didn't know who the Klingon was. He was just partaking in the ceremony to help out. This is a personal loss. So obviously, you could see that this was definitely a batless, you should say, to the heart for the Klingon that we love so much in the show, and maybe even a little bit of a wake up call. Explain to Worf that in Klingon society, there's a little bit more than your romanticized images of them. Obviously he's been going in with rose-colored glasses. This is how Klingons are, but now he's seeing duplicity. He's seeing the backstabbing, the stuff that's not honorable, but yet is being played by people who are supposedly supposed to be honorable.
Yes. And pretty much in his grief, he goes back to his own quarters, he takes off his communicator, grabs the batleth,
He
and
doesn't even have his satchel with him either.
Yeah, he doesn't. He just goes pretty much as he is, and he goes to exact his revenge on Duras. Because one of the last things that Kalar said was, Duras did this to me.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time that Picard and the crew realize what happened, Worf is already engaged in combat with Duras. And pretty much when he storms aboard Duras's bridge, of course, Duras tries to play it off like, you have no place here. You are not Klingon. You have taken discommendation. But one of the other crewmen's like, no, he's claimed the right of vengeance. And Worf justifies it by saying, Kalar was my mate. The first time he acknowledged her as such, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And real quick, ActionCom says Worf takes off his Federation badge, the Federation equivalent of Marines taking off their shirts to fight. Yeah, you're exactly right. So Worf is... Go ahead.
Or play volleyball.
Highway to the danger zone.
They do that again in Top Gun 2.
Yes, they do. Yes, they
With
do.
that,
You see it in the trailer.
Well, continuing on, Worf and Duras are engaged in battle where basically Duras says, go ahead, kill me, because I'm the only one that can prove your innocence. If I die, you'll be dishonored forever. But Worf doesn't care about that. He just wants revenge. So he's like, okay, fine, I'll be dishonored forever. I want your head. And by the time that Riker actually arrives and is
Riker
like,
and Data.
Worf, stop. Yes, Riker and Data. And Riker's like, Worf, stop. But it's too late. Riker has already swung the fatal blow, and Duras is killed. Now, they kind of gloss over this in the episode, but does that mean that now Gowron is leader of the High Council?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure we're going to see that come back in the next time we see him, which should be Redemption Part 1.
Yes.
It kind of also starts leading sometimes, some of us going, was it really Duras that killed her? Or it could have been Gowron, and Duras is saying, okay, fine. This is my chance to get rid of you when Worf does confront him on there. You could start seeing that there could be plans inside of a plan in this episode. At least, back when we first saw it. Yeah.
Could have been. But based off of how the two acted, obviously the way Gowron acted, I'm sure he wasn't a villain in this episode, but I'm sure he's going to be. Well, I take that back. Quote Mr. Burnett, we don't have villains in Star Trek, we have antagonists. He may not have been the antagonist in this episode, but I'm sure he's going to be in a future one.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I do believe it was indeed Duras that killed Kalar. They pretty much say as much in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate that they killed Kalar off, because I would have loved to see more of Susie Plaxton as Kalar in future episodes.
Or just as anybody in there. Bring her back as the Vulcan. She looked good with yours.
Hold on, doesn't she come back as a Cardassian?
I think it's a Vulcan. Or no, it's a Romulan, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a Rami.
Ah, okay. So after this, Worf is basically getting his butt chewed out by Picard. And Picard is like, listen, I'm sorry for your loss. I really am. But you went over the line here. And he says, if anyone else had done that, had prioritized their own cultural beliefs over their duties to Starfleet, they would have resigned. Now are you going to resign? And Worf said no. But weirdly, Picard just sort of lets him go. Like, there's no consequences for this. Because let's face it, Klingon law aside, in the Federation eyes, that was kind of
he should have been thrown in the brick.
Turned murder.
Right. He should have been thrown in the brick.
Yeah, but they just let him go. So what's going on there?
It's one of the weak things that, unfortunately, episodic TV at this time, even in a show like Star Trek Next Generation, has. What are we going to do now? We have this character that, basically, as everyone's saying, he should have been thrown in the brig. He should have been on a penal colony for this. He should have been drummed out of the series. But you can't get rid of that famous character. But how can you have such a powerful scene like that and not have repercussions come back in one fashion or another? And you don't necessarily get that until like another storyline. And it should be almost immediately felt, like, being, okay, you're back down to being an ensign, Worf, or something like that, or some sort of punishment. But he walks away, basically scot-free on this one.
I will say,
okay.
Sorry to interrupt. Did I interrupt you?
ActionCom says Worf was out of uniform and he did this on a Klingon ship, and the fight was sanctioned. Sorry, Crit, what were you saying?
Oh, it's like I always saw the Klingon duel as like, back in the 1700s, I think or 1800s, there was duels. Did you know that I think one of the vice presidents got into a duel? Was it Alexander Hamilton?
Alexander Hamilton. Aaron Burr. Okay, yeah, and it became such a famous thing that freaking Lin-Manuel, whatever his name is, made an entire play out of it. I'm sure.
Yeah, I always saw it as that, but Federation recognizes that, but does Picard? And I should mention questions like that, like you asked about why. I feel like those are more answered better in DS9 than TNG, because to me
Mhm.
TNG still has the good and the bad, and then sometimes they go in the gray. DS9 is the show that really it really finds the human part in the grayness of good and evil. What was because I'm sure in DS9, uh, he would get there would be the talk, but there would be much more to it.
Oh yeah.
TNG was still trying to find his footing with these kinds of things, but it's getting there. But I still think it's at the peak right now. So
And the thing that, even though this was a sanctioned fight on the Klingon ship, Worf is not a Klingon citizen. He is a Federation citizen. He's a Federation officer. When you swear your oath to Starfleet, you're holding yourself to the higher standards of the Federation. He left the ship without permission. He violated so many rules in this with Starfleet that he should not have been in Starfleet afterwards. Honestly,
Yeah.
In this episode, even if it was a sanctioned Klingon fight on a Klingon ship, he didn't have permission to go over there. He,
True.
right there, he was AWOL right there.
Absent without leave or unauthorized
Mhm.
absence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, he should have gotten a little bit more than just Picard giving a namby-pamby speech and then letting him go.
He basically got off easy.
Oh, yeah. There's other characters in the show that did less that suffered more.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, getting back to what actually happens in the episode ends with Worf saying goodbye to Alexander for now, saying, "My human parents will meet us at Starbase such and such. They will take care of you." And Alexander asks, "Why can't I stay with you?" And Worf says, "Because you need an actual family, and I can't give that to you here." And then finally, Alexander asks, "Are you my father?" And Worf says, "Yes." And the two hug as the credits roll. Now, I think someone said it in the chat earlier. I'm trying to find it, but I don't see it in the chat, but I remember just now seeing somewhere that a lot of people think that this particular episode is one of the saddest endings of Star Trek The Next Generation. What do you guys think?
I could see where they're coming from. I mean, you had the death of Kalar, and then Alexander is pretty much just cast aside by Worf to his parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's in the top 5, but yeah, it's one of the sad. It's obviously a sad ending to Star Trek. Still a little clunky. It's clunky, and that's the reason why I didn't hold out more. There's episodes where we're going into further along. We don't want to talk about that. Definitely impact more.
Yeah,
I will say, it isn't the. It's up there. But there is, we're not to it yet, but there is an episode I consider the most saddest. But that's not till next season, and Mike and Baron probably know what I'm talking about, so I won't spoil it.
All right. So
the episode the Butler did it. Yeah.
then with all of that being said, final rankings for this one, I think I'm gonna go 4.5 out of 5.
4. I mean, they introduced some great characters in there, but unfortunately, they got rid of some characters I don't think they needed to get rid of, and are needed to. And there was a little bit of clunkiness, like I said, with the at the end where I thought was kind of clunky with trying to get that tearjerker at the end. I don't think they were 100% successful in doing that. So I'd say a 4. I mean, we've got Galron for crying out loud, so we can't praise
Absolutely.
guys. And
Crit, your score?
5 out of 5.
Okay. Pacific?
I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Okay.
And this is a first. I mean, obviously, this is the first for seeing Galron. This is the first of seeing the Klingon attack cruiser, the Vorkshot class. First time we actually saw an original Klingon vessel since Star Trek 3. Jonathan Frakes directed this episode, so it was one of the cast members that was
wow.
One take, 2 take Frakes, I think they called him when he was directing.
Yeah, it was Jonathan Frakes who gave Robert O'Reilly the encouragement to use the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So okay. Yeah, so I mean, and of course, was the last with Charles Cooper. It's the last with Susie Plaxton. And this is the only time we saw the young actor playing Alexander. Next time we see Alexander, will be a different actor.
Okay, fair enough then.
Mm-hmm.
So, next episode is Future Imperfect. And again, the episode starts with them just doing a random science mission. When they... Actually, no, it doesn't start with that. It starts with Riker's 38th birthday, I believe. And, of course, Riker is giving them just a quick show in 10 forward on the trombone. And he's trying to play a certain song that he can't get right. And, it's played up for a laugh. He blows out his candles. They ask him what he wished for, and he jokingly says, trombone lessons. However, Data and Picard are on their way to the party, but they get called over by a crewman saying, listen, hey, we've picked up a weird signal coming from this planet that we once thought was completely uninhabited. And Picard guesses that it's possibly this secret underground Romulan base. And so Picard calls Riker to come to the bridge to get ready an away team. And so, the party has to get cut short. Meanwhile, Riker gets briefed, and he, Geordi, and Worf beam down to the surface, which there's a lot of toxic gases that are getting picked up in the scanners. And there's a lot of magnetic interference, so they're just barely able to hear the ship. And they try and beam up as they're starting to pass out from all the gases, and the transporter's failing. And suddenly, Riker passes out, and when he comes to, he's back on board the Enterprise, but now he's the captain, and he and everyone else that he knows aboard the Enterprise are much older. Now, let's get into this real quick. This is obviously not the first time we have seen an actor artificially aged. Of certain Karnes comes to mind, or Dr. Noonien Soong, or what happened to Pulaski. Yes, of all of the artificial aging effects that we have seen thus far, this, in my opinion, was done the best, because they didn't go completely overboard with all the wrinkles in the face. And I'm sure they put on a fake wig to show old white hair. No, it's still them, just with the slightest bit of makeup to show more wrinkles in the face, and of course gray highlights. Like Riker has gray now in here, and a little bit like right here. Same with Dr. Crusher. She has her hair up now in an old lady bun, but it's still mostly orange. Picard now has completely white hair instead of salt and pepper, and he has a white goatee. Worf, he's now a little bit older, and he has a scar here now. Geordi has a little bit of gray here, and he doesn't have his visor anymore. He has natural eyes, which he says were cloned implants. And of all of it, Data now wears a red shirt, and he's first officer. But Riker doesn't remember any of this, and they explain it by saying he had an Altarian virus, which basically caused pretty much 16 years of his life to be completely forgotten like that, from the point that he was first infected with the disease on that planet, Alpha Onias 3, I believe it was called. So Riker has to readjust to all of that. Oh my goodness. Phil McCracken said, cancel Paul for saying old lady bun. I don't know what else to call it.
I like old ladies' buns. Sorry.
I don't know what else to call it, man. And you know what? I'm going to say it again.
Spell it right this time.
Oh, I did. I made sure to. Hashtag blame Phil for canceling Paul. Between that and saying hashtag justice for, you know, the rest of it. And by the way, hello to Mattuine. Thanks for joining. So Riker is just completely bewildered by all of these changes. He doesn't obviously remember the fact that he's older now, the fact that he's captain. But walking around the ship, other things have changed too. For example, now Worf isn't the only Klingon serving aboard the Enterprise. In fact, they walk right by a Klingon woman in a yellow uniform that looks pretty much exactly dead on for Kalar. Like, I'm pretty sure that's the same actress. Or if not, they made whatever actress look almost like her. Not only that, but now there's Ferengi in Starfleet, because there's a Ferengi ensign sitting at the chair that Wesley usually sits at. I almost said SH.
Yeah, almost Amber Turd.
Yeah. Phil McCracken says it's called a top knot or a ponytail. No, it is not. No, it is not.
It's a granny bun.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to call her a school marm.
School marm, yeah, there we go.
Okay, we'll take it. So anyways, the thing that surprises him the most, though, is that Admiral Picard and Counselor Troy arrived to the Enterprise aboard a Romulan vessel. Come to find out, in this future, the Romulans and here, I gotcha on this one. Where is it? Here it is.
Sir, I know this may finish me as an acting ensign, but
shut up, Wesley.
And that's not the last time, by the way. We will be playing that. And I mean, we don't see them get up to go to the bathroom. How do we know that those chairs on the bridge don't have built-in toilets? But then again, whatever. That we don't need to think about that.
Pull my finger, number one.
All right. So, anyways, continuing on. Come to find out, pretty much the Federation and the Romulans are on the verge of making peace with one another. All that they have to do is go through one more round of negotiations and pretty much sign the treaty. And it's revealed that Riker was heavily instrumental in that. In fact, it was Riker that first rescued a Romulan vessel that was badly damaged near the neutral zone. And the Romulans noticed this and noticed the kindness of the Federation, which, opened up a dialogue between the two. That Riker was instrumental in continuing that dialogue also. But now Riker's lost pretty much all of his memory. So he's got to get completely up to speed again. But the biggest thing that throws the biggest thing that throws him for a loop. He goes to his quarters, and it's revealed he has a son. And what's his son's name? Jean-Luc.
Jean-Luc.
Yep. DJ Ronnie G says, when Shatner was asked at a convention about the toilet situation, he asked, well, you know all those buttons? I'm going to do this in my Shatner voice. Well, you know all those buttons on my chair. If you can find a clip of that, DJ Ronnie G, put it in the chat and I'll play it.
Maybe they teleport the.
I mean,
maybe they don't. Maybe they don't have the. Number one. I need to make number one. I need to take a number two. Initiate teleports. And
no, we know exactly where it goes. Phil said this once before that apparently that stuff is the matter that's used in the replicator.
Oh no!
Which I don't know if I buy that.
Chocolate pudding again?
Matsuine says, I like any episode that has Tomalak in it. Oh, yeah, he's in this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Riker in this future has a son named Jean-Luc. And yes. Okay, we need to stop joking about this. So, yeah, he has a son, and his wife, according to Troy, was... okay. Yeah, so I'll read that in just a moment. So, yeah, he had a wife named Min, who had passed away, and she was the replacement ship's counselor after Deanna Troi left to work a job at Starfleet Academy that she pretty much couldn't pass up.
And it's not just any Min, it's Minuet.
Oh, spoilers!
Thanks a lot, Mike.
You gave away the twist.
All right.
Dun, dun, dun.
Toss about the airlock.
There he goes.
Next time, give a guy an EV suit. Come on.
Mike sounds like he just watched Strange New Worlds episode 2.
Well, here I could have done the James Bond thing. Go on, Pacific. Take a flying leap for mankind. Where's Pacific? Oh, he had to fly.
Who's Pacific?
Which, by the way, Moonraker, I think, is an underrated Bond film.
It's a fun one. Come on.
It is. All right. So, anyways, however, though, Riker noticed that just certain things just don't add up. Like, for example, the computer being slow. That's never we've never seen that happen on the Enterprise. The computer being slow like that, and it's pretty much slow throughout the whole thing. And Riker's like, wait a minute, this isn't right. And finally, kind of glossing over some of the different things, he tries to connect with Jean-Luc, the kid. He tries to remember what happened. He's shocked, of course, to see that Tomalak is the ambassador that he's been negotiating peace with, when in his mind he still remembers when Tomalak was a bitter enemy. But what really starts to break the illusion, because that's all this is, an illusion, is when he sees a video of one of Jean-Luc's birthdays showing him, Riker, and Minuet. Because remember that one French girl that got conjured up for him in the holodeck in season 1 when we first see
11001001.
Yep, or as I call it, gent tabs. But apparently she is Riker's wife, but that's not possible because she is a holodeck creation, and Riker knows this, and thus he starts to question everything around him. Like, for example, how Worf doesn't know where he got his scar, or how Geordi could be running a level 1 diagnostic on the computer for something like 96 hours now, or how Data used a contraction. And finally, he realizes this is all fake. And it's revealed that it was indeed all an illusion created by the Romulans that he had gotten captured by. And turns out the little boy was someone that shared in his fantasy that the Romulans sort of implanted in his head. Riker and the boy named Ethan escape. But again, things start not making sense when Ethan, the boy, in this real world, references Tomalak as Ambassador Tomalak, which only happened in Riker's dream of him being captain. And eventually, Riker realizes what's really going on, that it's not the Romulans that kept him hostage, it was this boy. Basically, this boy played Inception on Riker. Basically, he put him in this dream to give the boy a sense of being part of a family again, and to give Riker, in a sense, what he wanted, even though Riker says, no, I didn't want to be here. You brought me here. But at the same time, he kind of takes pity on the boy, who turns out not even to be human at all. He's an alien named Barash. But Riker says, you know what, kid? Even though you're not a human, I still call you Jean-Luc. And you can come with me. And so they beam out. And that's pretty much the end of the episode. Now, I saved this one comment from Stovepipe, who says, it's really an S-word episode. It teases you with a bunch of cool stuff, but then it was all a dream, just a holodeck.
Yeah,
well, first off, for the curse word, I have to play this.
Language, and for gosh sake, watch your language.
Sorry about that. Carry on.
But that's one of my main gripes about this episode, is that it's all essentially a dream. I don't like those type of episodes. And yes, I didn't like it when it was all a dream for JR and Dallas. No.
Oh, that's horrible.
I like this episode. I really I don't mind the ending. I think it's a heartwarming ending. Notice instant acceptance, no questioning it. Riker instantly accepts the boy regardless of what he is, and they beam up. That's what I feel like captures the spirit of Trek. There's no like there's no why. It's just do. Why don't you like why don't you question why you should like the boy? No. It's instant acceptance.
Yeah.
And I feel like that the dream, yeah, well, I thought the whole point was to trick you guys, you know. Mike, you got tricked, you got bamboozled. Yeah. And don't worry, we will see a future like this. Can't spoil what episode it is.
Yeah.
Well, you know, with this episode, of course, you know, this was all the machinery that Barack was a part of was because he was exiled. This is supposed to keep him, you know, entertained for his exile all by himself on this dead planet. And now, finally, he has someone come along to share with him that, you know, something that's not a hologram or an illusion. And how can someone not take pity on a child that was abandoned like that? You know, can you just imagine leave them behind and going, yeah, whatever. You know, you're still a kid even though you're in exile. You know, there's got to be something where, okay, we're going to take you. And of course, again, it's typical episodic television. This thing, we never hear from the character again. I mean, one of the great things, of course, it was so interesting to see a vision of the future of the Enterprise. And like you said, Master Paul, where they're not carried away with the old people makeup. It looked very realistic. This episode shows that Deanna Troi looks great in uniform, which was a great decision to put her into one of those later on. Spoiler alert. And having Andreas Katsoulis coming in and playing Tomalak yet again. How can you not love that? He was such a great actor. And a funny note on that one, when they had their little fight in this episode between Riker and him, Jonathan Frakes accidentally did KO him, make contact and hit him and knocked him down by accident in there. And Jonathan Frakes felt so bad afterwards, but Andreas Katsoulis would talk about it, jokingly afterwards about how he was KO'd.
Matween says, I'm sure Kurtzman will bring him back, gender swapping, and we'll get an episode about his childhood trauma.
Well,
don't give them ideas.
Well, Kurtzman probably doesn't even know this episode. He probably never even seen it. And remember who we're talking about here.
Right. And real quick, Action Com is trying to get me to sing "Row, Row, Row Your Boat" because life is but a dream in this episode. I can do you one better. Check this out one. Oh, life could be a dream if I could take you to a paradise above. If you will tell me I'm the only one that you love, life could be a dream, sweetheart. That's all I'm going to do with that.
Well, at least it won't get hit with a copyright thing.
I hope that song's public domain.
No.
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
At least I like that one.
And, yeah, it is a good song. You did a good job there. That was a good job.
Thanks. I need to learn a full version of that for karaoke at the VAC tube. But anyways, ActionCom says, by the way, the future star date is 58416. Okay, thank you. All right, so final score for this one, guys. I'm going 3.5 out of 5 for this one.
I'm going to go 3. There was a lot of mediocre stuff that was in this episode, but it instantly goes up 1 point because of Andreas Katsoulis. Instantaneously right there. No matter what episode you're in, even if it's a 5-star episode, if Andreas Katsoulis is in it, it goes to 6. So I give it a 3. It's a little weak, and the ending kind of abrupt. It's like, okay, come with me, and you'll see a world of imagination. Beam me up, with the kid. But there was a lot of mediocrity. It was nice to see the future, the future concepts of the Enterprise, and of course, again, Andreas.
Yes, absolutely. Crit, your final score.
3 out of 10, or no, 3 out of 5.
Okay.
I went lower than the one.
Pacific?
2.9.
2.9. Okay, fair enough. All right, so then with that, the next one we are talking about is...
Mike, you're only giving Andreas 0.9?
He's the only reason the episode's getting a 2.9.
Fair enough. All right, so final mission. Picard is being assigned to travel with this one freighter smuggler, not really sure what he's called, named Durgo, I think his name is.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also, he says in his stardate, quote, I have to deal with a more personal assignment first. And he calls Wesley Crusher to the bridge. And of course he plays it off like, Wesley, you're 10 minutes late. And of course Wesley's trying to like, I'm sorry, sir, I'm sorry. I was running an experiment. I had these volatile chemicals. And Picard's like, I don't care. You're late. And Starfleet's not going to tolerate this. And then of course Wesley's like, I'm sorry. But then he realizes, wait a minute. And that's when Picard breaks the news that, congratulations, Wesley, you finally got into Starfleet. You'll leave in 2 weeks. And of course,
Picard was busting his chops.
Yes, and it was hilarious to see. And so basically, as a going away present / goodbye party, Wesley will be accompanying Captain Picard on this mission. And so they do that, but after they depart, they get a call from another planet saying, "Hey, listen, we've got a lot of radiation hitting us. Can you come, basically explore us and find out what's going on?" And Riker's like, "Okay." But as soon as the shuttle leaves the Enterprise, things start going wrong. And already things are kind of not kosher because the captain, he's pretty much like one of these fly by the seat of your pants sort of guys. Like, I don't know, just slap it together, put some duct tape on it. If it works, it works.
It works. It works.
Kick it a few times.
Yeah. You might need to get out and push. I'll pop the clutch. But yeah, basically one of his engines goes out and they have to land on this one desert moon, which Picard should be pretty well prepared for because he spent a great deal of time once in a past life on a desert planet where he learned to ride sandworms.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anyone says, David Lynch's Dune is better than the 2021 Dune, and you can fight me over that.
I don't necessarily agree, but to each their own.
I like them both, so you're not going to get an argument either way.
Baron, your 2 cents?
I like both. I think but everyone seems to always forget the 2000 miniseries.
That I watched clips of that. Ugh, sorry, Baron. No.
What?
I mean,
why does the Baron, not Baron Tag, the Baron, why does he have to be fat? I know it's accurate to the book where they had red hair and stuff, but why does he have to act all wimpy and like, I like it in the 80s movie where he's ugly and disgusting, and then they kind of, in the remake, he's kind of the same way, but he's like, yeah. But
I like all three.
I like.
I do like both, but I have a clear favorite, and yeah.
What if Dune Part 2 changes your mind because it's kind of an incomplete movie? It's kind
then it changes my mind, but we will see. I will say though, one thing that I prefer over the and then we'll get back on topic. One thing I prefer over the 1984 Dune over the new one is Toto.
Yeah. Toto did a good job.
They did. Like, I could just go and listen to that music. But anyways, back to the episode. So Picard, Wesley, and Durgo land on this desert moon. And basically all of the main, functions of the shuttle are out. Like, no replicator, no engines, no communication, no nothing. DJ Ronnie G says, another reason I wish I hadn't named him Londo. Every time I tell the people the name, they hear Lando instead of Londo. Londo is a Centauri ambassador. Lando is the best spin manager and scoundrel who may or may not be in love with a droid. But we don't talk about that.
I don't know what you're talking about that part.
What? I found the way down in Africa. Yep. It's gonna take a lot to drag me away.
Hey, I would, if Lando was like dating a robot like let's see, Edie from Mass Effect, I would say go on, do it. But that L3 bot, nope. You could probably, if that L3 bot was real, you'd probably see her on the streets protesting something. So,
yes. Or if it was a female version of Data,
like Lao,
but grown up.
Oh yeah, I would rather have Lao forever.
Yeah.
The 80s better.
All right. So, anyways, basically, they have no way of communicating with anyone. They only have a few hand phasers to defend themselves. The temperature is super hot, and they have no actual emergency food or water because they're dealing with the space of a shuttle. And Durgo's like, look, I have to be really picky and choosy with what I carry. So I don't carry emergency stores of food and water. Phil McCracken says #cancel crit now. What did crit do to you this time?
Boo. Cancel crit.
I'm a 94 baby, man. Yeah, I did miss the 80s. And yeah, he even uses the replicator for water. But anyways, they see mountains ahead, and Picard figures out where there's mountains, there's usually shelter. So he takes some metal scraps and makes an arrow pointing the way that they went in case someone comes to find them. Meanwhile, the Enterprise, with Riker in command, arrives at this other planet and finds pretty much the reason why this planet's getting hit with radiation, and that's because there is a derelict garbage scow in orbit above this planet. And Pacific, help me out here. Laddie, would you mind rephrasing that?
I'm not saying the Enterprise should be hauling garbage. I'm saying it should be hauled away as garbage.
They called the Enterprise a garbage scow.
And that's where you hit the Klingons.
Yes. I need to get a clip of that and find some way to use it. But anyways, so they come up with this plan to basically tow the garbage scow away from the planet and throw it into the nearby sun at the risk of taking on all this radiation themselves. And they are... Stovepipe Down Tube said, Scotty threw the first punch. And Phil says, speaking of arrows, I took an arrow in a knee. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Scotty threw the first punch. Han shot first.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Scotty.
So, so anyways, while this is going on, they eventually, Picard, Wesley, and Durgo make it to a cave, where it's revealed that Durgo had a secret stash of liquor on him this whole time. And, he tries to play it off, well, if you hadn't taken it from me, I would have shared some with you. But Picard's like, no, this is going to dehydrate you. And this is worse for you than actual water. So we're going to be keeping this purely for medicinal purposes like disinfection and such. But they venture deeper into this cave and find there's this fountain of water just bubbling up right from the ground. They try to approach it, but hold on a second. What are you sharing, Baron?
As good as your word.
Aye, sir. The more they overthink the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the drain.
Okay. What is that in reference to?
I don't. It was a Scotty moment.
It's Scotty.
It's Scotty.
Yeah. Of course, here's another classic Scotty moment right here. And of course, as always, thank you to Pacific for making this clip.
I know this ship like the back of my hand.
So with that, they find out they need to figure out a way to get past this force field that surrounds the fountain, because this whole time Wesley on his tricorder has been tracking an EM frequency, and it centers around the water. And Durgo tries to shoot at it, with his phaser, and it ends up summoning this weird energy sentry. Do they say exactly what this thing is?
I don't think so. Just
No.
an energy sentry.
Yeah, pretty much. And it disarms Durgo of his phaser, but in the struggle, Picard gets caught under a rock slide. In fact, he saves Wesley from this rock slide and takes it himself. And by the end of it, he took a very nasty hit to the head. He has internal bleeding. I believe like he got a pretty good gash right here,
Mm-hmm.
and his right leg is broken. So now the situation is even more dire for the people on the ground. And Picard basically says, listen, you and I both know that Durgo is hard-headed. I can't stand up to him now. You're going to have to, Wesley. And Wesley tries to stand up to him. He's like, listen, I'm going to try and I'm going to try again, but you're going to help me. And Wesley's like, no, we don't know if this is going to work. We don't, what happens to you? Because they find out that the phaser that he tried to use at first, basically got wrapped in this weird spiderweb looking thing. But Durgo doesn't listen to reason, and he decides, okay, I'm going to do this my way. So he tries again at disabling the force field with, using his phasers. This time, the energy sentry attacks him and basically kills him by wrapping up him in all of this, in all that same webbing stuff. So it comes down to just Picard and Wesley surviving on this desert planet, and Picard is in a bad way. Meanwhile, the Enterprise successfully manages to take the garbage scow and put it into the sun. So they go back and search for Picard because they heard that they didn't make it to where they were supposed to go. And then we get honestly probably the best scene with Wesley. And it's funny because, as we kind of mentioned earlier in this show, it took his goodbye to get a good scene with him. But it's basically where Picard and Wesley admit to each other that they have a certain mutual respect and admiration for each other. And Wesley references the one episode where they were traveling together to Starbase 505 in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And how at first Wesley was dreading it because he didn't want to spend a full 6-hour shuttle ride with Picard. But over their time together, he's grown to admire and look up to Picard more and more, to where now he wants to be like that. And Picard admits, listen, man, ever since I may not show it all the time, but I've always been proud of you. And this is when Wesley decides to finally do something to get water for them. So he figures out a way to manipulate the EM frequency to disable the energy sentry and thus disable the force field, which allows him to get water. And Wesley passes out after this, and next thing he knows, he's getting rescued by the crew, including his mom. And pretty much this is the goodbye for Wesley.
Mm-hmm.
So because Wesley saved Picard, this counts 14 times that Wesley has saved the ship as a regular member of the Enterprise.
And it's not the last time.
Oh, I know.
But as a regular.
So, the last time as a regular, we play this.
Sir, I know this may finish me as an acting ensign, but...
Shut up, Wesley!
Godspeed, Wesley. Even though your actor is a total dirtbag.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much the end of the episode. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. Just sheerly for that ending scene alone.
I think it's a solid 4, definitely, for an episode. Juan Durgal, that was played by Nick Tate. If anyone remembers Space 1999, he was one of the he's one of the pilots for the Eagles that they had in the show. Of course, bringing out the old Star Trek 3 phasers, basically old military surplus that the guy has. It was a nice touch on there, and them walking around with those, which are my favorite phasers, by the way, in Star Trek. And of course, again, it had to take into the 4th season to actually make you really like this character. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, where the heck were you before, people? This was, you should have been doing this before with, at least by season 2, gave him a chance because, Will Wheaton, despite whether we like him or not, at least at this time, he was a good actor. As a kid, good child actor. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of shorted in this role. It was an insult. And now we're finally seeing it, and now you're kind of going, damn it, now I'm gonna sorry about that.
I gotta do it.
Language, and for gosh sake, watch your language.
But I mean, it's like now when you actually made us like us, you're taking them away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course, lest we forget, the character of Wesley Crusher was initially intended as pretty much a Gene Roddenberry self-insert, which I'm sure did the character no favors.
Nope.
No. Especially when you were having all those, Wesley saves the Enterprise stories in the beginning there. It's basically Roddenberry's ego being stroked or having it stroked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, okay. So since this is the last all right, I got a question for you all. Since this is the last Wesley episode where he's part of the cast, what was the worst of them all? What was the worst Wesley episode?
The worst Wesley episode. I gotta really think about that one. You know what? The Dauphin. That one.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah,
it was pretty bad.
Yeah, you know what I'm gonna say?
The Naked Now.
Yeah, how'd you know? How'd you know?
Don't worry, Chris. That's mine too.
He knew it.
Naked Now was pretty bad too.
Yeah, it was the Naked Now followed by the Dolphin. Those were insufferable. Yeah.
See, here's the thing. I like the Naked Now. But I agree, Wesley being the one to save the ship was pretty.
And he was drunk while he was doing it too.
Yes, that means I'm drunk.
Hey man, it's like you're not drunk, you're stoned, man.
Yeah, but at the same time, we still got the brilliant knowledge that Data is, quote, fully functional in every way.
Yeah.
I mean, The Naked Now was one of those episodes where we want to branch a little bit with the actors' chops, and unfortunately, who got the short end on that one? Weasley.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, but let's face it, as bad as that, at least in your mind, as that episode may have been, it's not Code of Honor.
No. Nothing beats Code of Honor.
Oh, is that the Amos and Andy's in space?
Well, actually, there is an episode. I don't think we got to it yet. That I think is, well, it's the same level of quality, but it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's surprising to say. Okay.
What's it called?
I gotta think about it.
Is it called Devil's Due by chance?
No. That's more of a bad TOS episode, but given to TNG. Yeah. You'll see.
Yeah.
Or you could say season 3 TOS, but it's TNG. So
Okay.
no, there's some ridiculous episodes they still do in TNG.
Oh yeah, we're not out of this.
We're not there. Oh wait. There's one episode I would say is one of the worst that's coming up, and I'll hype you up. It's called The Loss, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Well,
I like that. I like that episode.
The Loss.
I like that episode.
You watched it?
I watched it.
You watched the.
Funny enough,
well,
that episode is next.
There we go.
Then again,
let's.
Oh,
okay, so
I forgot it was on the
before we talk about why we like or dislike it, let's get into the story. So this episode is, of course, a Troy episode, and it starts with her meeting with another Starfleet officer that we'd never met before and probably won't meet again after this episode. Basically helping her come to grips with the loss of her husband. And she basically deducts what's going on right away, saying, you're involving yourself with all of these basically busy work, and you're hiding from the real pain of your husband's death. And you need to come to terms with that. However, as the meeting ends, the Enterprise goes through what they call this weird signal that's like there and gone in an instant. And they try to go to warp 9, but suddenly they're caught in something and they can't tell what. And at this same time, something's messing with Deanna Troy's head, because she starts getting these headaches worse and worse and worse and worse until eventually she recovers. And of course, Dr. Crusher can't figure out what happened. But then something kind of feels off for Deanna. And so she attends a meeting with everyone in the briefing room, talking about how apparently they've been caught in this stream of two-dimensional beings, which, by the way, kind of sounds like the Orville, doesn't it, Pacific?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
But anyways, and of course Picard asks, do you sense any sort of intelligence from them? And Deanna says, no, I don't sense anything. Like, anything. I don't sense anything from them or you. I've completely lost my empathic powers. So, that setup there, let's just isolate that from the rest of this episode. What do you guys think?
Well, it has, I mean, just summarizing what we were just saying, when someone sits down and go, hey, we're dealing with two-dimensional beings here. Okay, wow, this sounds really science fiction. It's like, okay, what about that? And Deanna loses her power. Oh, okay, so now we get to see something where someone's struggling with their inability to use their natural talent. Okay, great. Now what you can deliver us? This.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it comes down to, did they deliver or did they not?
Right. Which right now we're just talking about the setup.
Right.
So,
I mean, you have to admit, just the fact that, you have, well, I think there was Flatland. I think there was a novella that was wrote about, basically a two-dimensional world. So, here you're dealing with two-dimensional beings. How would you conceptualize that? How could you, trying to imagine a 2D living entity is sometimes even harder than thinking about a 4D, entity, something that's not quite within our universe itself. And of course, again, this is like, okay, can we see if Surtees can actually act? Because this is going to take some acting chops.
Yes.
In this part. So, like I said, the setup is beautiful. Great setup, great promise. Now, of course, as we go along, we'll go into the delivery. And old Crit down there's laughing away.
Pacific.
Yeah, I
your
gotta
turn.
tell you.
Hold on, no, Crit. I'm saving you for last. Pacific, your turn.
The loss. It's an episode I wouldn't mind losing. That's for sure.
All right, go ahead, Crit.
All right, let me see. This is what the whole episode reminded me of. Let me see. I could bring it up.
Get out! Get out! Get out of my life! Why, Lisa? Why?
I really can't.
I don't see it.
You don't?
I'm kidding. I see it a little bit, but it doesn't take away from this episode for me.
Don't show that yet, by the way, Paul. No, don't show.
Sorry.
I was putting that in there for the end.
This episode had me at a loss. So,
all right. So moving on. This whole episode then is about two things: them trying to figure out how to get out of the path of the two-dimensional beings. Which, by the way, they're being sucked into they call it a cosmic string, but really what it is a black hole. It's about that, but at the same time, it's about Troy trying to figure out how to cope without her Betazoid abilities, which she does a horrible job at. Without her Betazoid abilities, you described this, Crit, by the way, going into it as Troy whining the whole time. I went into it with that expectation. And yeah, she does whine a lot in this episode, but honestly, I kind of liked it. And you guys are going to hate me for this. I think this is some of the best acting that we've gotten out of Marina Sirtis up to this point. Just seeing how frustrated she is with losing her powers, not sure how to cope with it, the way that she snaps at Riker, the way that she snaps at Beverly, the conversation she has with Guinan, which I will admit, by the way, does kind of prove what you guys have been saying about how Guinan makes Troy kind of feel redundant because she does her job. But at the same time, it's still a good conversation. And I can't help it. I just like it.
Maybe you also had Deanna telling Picard he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Maybe she should become the Inquisitor.
We're not touching that right now.
But I think we're seeing where Captain Paul there kind of likes his women, kind of whiny and ornery and.
Yeah, nothing
can't
wrong.
Help it.
Nothing wrong if they yell every line that they say and they're like, "Ooh, I like that." Where is the Kenobi? Why? Where is my voices?
You sound like Sal from.
After that detour, getting back to the story.
Yeah, back to Punch Face.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm just gonna call him that for the rest of the episode. So,
I'm gonna rush in and punch his face.
So Padme and Punch Face
I'm gonna punch him right in the Clovis.
Wait, where's that on the bottom?
Where'd that come from?
Just because.
Shut up, Picard.
You don't know what you're talking about, Picard.
I can't take it. I gotta leave. I gotta give up.
That's, I mean, yeah, you're making fun of it, but that's pretty much what happens in the episode. Eventually it gets to the point where she just can't cope. And she decides to resign her post as ship's counselor. But Picard's basically not having it. It's like, no, you're better than this. You'll figure out a way to adapt. Although, to be fair, Action Com is right. She shuts down a Picard speech, which I will agree, kind of low blow there. But eventually, it comes down to her having to work together with Data to figure out a way to break free of the two-dimensional path that they're following. And eventually she figures it out that it's basically they're attracted to this black hole like moth to a flame. So if they can create something else to attract them, that will break their hold on them long enough to get out, which it works. And as soon as they escape the hold of the two-dimensional beings, Troy gets her power back. And now that we are done with the episode, I will let you guys roast me now for liking this episode. And I'm going to go, and you know what? I'm going to even give my final score for you guys to roast. I think this is also a 4 out of 5.
Boo!
1.5 out of 5.
Bring it. Bring it on.
Well, you liked Reva, so I don't know.
And I still do.
Well, what if she screams at Vader? Shut up, Vader!
We'll cross that bridge. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. If we get there.
If we get there.
It's so hard. It's so hard for me to behave on this show. I have to behave so much on this show. I could take this places that I'll never be invited back.
This is the worst episode of season 4. So, if you want my serious answer, 1.5 out of Shindig Ding Dong.
Okay. Pacific, you said 1.5 out of 5?
1.5 out of 5. Oh my gosh, I can't stand this episode.
Okay. Baron, your score.
I would say I'll be generous. I'll be kind. I'll go 2. But
okay.
I just because you're getting punched so hard by all these other guys. So I'm doing this to help you out. But this is definitely not one of the stronger. Again, like you said, when you brought down the synopsis, hey, this sounds like it'd be good. Can you execute it? Well, yeah, it was executed, but not. It was offered a blindfold and a cigarette first. That's how it was. So,
by the way, I'm gonna pull a Phil McCracken. # Justice for Deanna Troy.
No. Doesn't work like that, Paul.
Oh yes.
It doesn't work like that.
This is my channel, and if I say it works like that, it works like that.
Well, if it works for you. But so do you listen to seminars where women complain all the time and
No, I just get a kick out of it.
You just get a kick out of it.
Okay, if it makes you feel better, there is a certain degree of I like it because I can laugh at it.
So why didn't you like Tasha Yar when she complained all the time?
Because and I'm being serious here, I was expecting her to go the strong whammon route. Because let's face it, she did kind of have that look.
Oh yeah. Well, she was originally going to be Macha Horrendous. They were going to imitate the character off of Aliens for the original idea for Yar. Of course, that didn't go that way. And isn't it interesting that Surtees tried out for Yar and Crosby's tried out for Troy? It would have been an interesting world if they were casted the opposite like that one. I could not see Surtees doing a Tasha.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't.
So, but the thing is we got to see the fact that Deanna Troy was one of these little pampered girls growing up and all that. Now she got her one toy, her one ability taken away, and now she's having that little Deb hissy fit. And it kind of shows you, at least in that aspect, which makes it pretty strong in that aspect, you can see that this was a pampered girl who finally had something yanked away from her.
Yeah, I can see that.
And of course, all you have to do is take a look at her mother.
Oh my goodness. I might like Deanna, but her mother can, to quote our friend Brandon the anime guy, get thrown out the airlock.
This season might change
Come
your
now,
mind.
little one.
Come little one. This season might change your mind on that. All right.
Well, I will say it again. I liked this episode. I gave it a 4 out of 5. And
if you've got an issue, here's a tissue.
Thank you, Pacific, by the way.
You gotta watch that movie, all 3 of them.
I will at some point.
And
baby,
and Wayne's World 1 and 2, and I Married an Ex-Murderer. I think
I don't know yet when that's gonna be, because there's a lot of movies.
You
that
got
I have to watch.
You gotta get your backlog filled, just like my.
I know. We'll
Look at all that.
Get it watched.
Mike Myers movies.
The only Mike Myers movie I've seen, or multiple of them, is Shrek's 1 through 3, and I can't believe I actually sat through this one, Cat in the Hat.
Oh. I thought you were going to say Love Guru.
I couldn't even make it through the first few minutes.
That movie is an abomination.
No,
it's not even so bad. It's good.
Okay. So you think you guys are gonna get upset? I like that movie. I think that movie is funny because the amount of adult jokes that they hid. The fact that they had all the adult jokes, I can't help but laugh when I watch that movie. It's not a kids movie. It's not a kid.
Twitter.
It's not
crit.
It's the fact when he's doing the cupcake-inator. I laugh at that. I'm sorry, but some things never die. But you know what you could just zip it, Mike. Zip.
And
zip.
Paul and Action Com has a great question on this one. Because of course one of the big things is the story, the quest, the journey, the heroes.
What was the purpose of Troy's journey? Basically, here's what her purpose was. To remind her of just how special she was, that she had this ability and not to take it for granted.
But
and to get in touch with her human side.
No, that's not how it was. That's not how it went to me. She just whined throughout it. She gave up. So if you're, would it have been the goal of this episode to get past the pain and not give up? To people get blind and they lose limbs in the war. When they get home, what do? Do they find ways to move on? And Troy took the coward's way by just giving up, and she couldn't take it. And I'm like, while the crew might have not seen it that way, the fact is that she couldn't cope. And she didn't have enough copium in her oxygen tank. For the message of this episode is scared. It's pointless. It's a very pointless episode. There was no journey, in my opinion. The whole purpose, the point of this episode was trying to be thankful for the gifts you have, because you may lose them. But But would it have been interesting to? Sometimes you might lose something precious. Does that mean you just give up? Because you can. You can go on, Baron. I'm done.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I was going to sit back and say this would have worked if this was going to go over several story arc, because just like a person who does lose a limb, whether it's in war or real life, or lose a sense, they lose their hearing, they lose their sight. There is those moments where you have that self-pity on yourself. But as you go along, people start picking yourself up. This is going to be something hard to do in a 44-minute episode of Star Trek, especially when I don't know. Was there a B story? This one I can't remember.
So Baron, I want to. You might remember this, and I'm not going to try to spoil DS9, but there's a certain character. What you described is exactly what they do in DS9, where there's a certain character that can do things. He's not human, but he has the ability. He loses that for nearly a whole season, and he tries to cope with it, and he kind of gets used to it before he gets his abilities back. And it's interesting to see him cope. They did much better in DS9, so
right. And then, yeah, I didn't want to bring that up because, again, I didn't want to go spoilers or anything. But yeah, but the thing is, the only way it really worked though was because it went over several episodes. You can see the evolution. You can see that journey. That then, if they would have done this for over like 3 episodes, not being the main focus point, but her still adapting to what she's got and going to more the acceptance. And now I got the acceptance. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to work around it? How am I going to do the new steps and all that? And then eventually get everything back. That would have been the journey. But there really wasn't a journey in it. It's like, I'm going to whine like a little princess. And then at the end, I get my everything back and everything's all honky-dory and we're right off in the sunset with the garbage scowl.
All right. So all of that being said, question from ActionCom. What was Picard's story before he was rudely interrupted? A person who was blind or deaf from birth. Basically
he was
saying,
also going to bring up the fact that he had an instructor who was confined to a wheelchair since birth.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that I'm usually a counselor at a government disability forum for youths every year. He's not the lieutenant governor now, but the lieutenant governor from a couple of years ago, he's blind. And he's lieutenant governor of the state. So let that just sink in, that you can still accomplish things even if you have a disadvantage. It's not, you take that disadvantage and make it advantage, but this episode shows, hey, you get your powers back. Yay. You whined the whole episode. Good for you.
And Lord Crit, what I have to say about this, you finally actually had an honest politician, because when they say they didn't see any corruption, they're telling the truth.
Oh, that was a joke, but
All right, guys.
Rome.
Time to switch gears. Now, as I said, we were going to cover this past Wednesday, but of course I had internet issues. So we're going to cover it sort of abbreviated tonight. We're not going to go through the whole story. We're just going to kind of overview it. So I saw this for the first time with Crits last Monday, was it?
Yep, and Phil.
And Phil McCracken was there too. And I already knew somewhat of what this movie was going to be about, because as I said, I've seen the Nostalgia Critic review for both this one, Conan the Destroyer, and Red Sonja, which Phil insists I watch all of them. Oh, I'm going to. I've already made up my mind.
It's worth
it. Anyways,
it's not the same.
No, I know. And I kind of envy you, Captain Paul, because you get to see, you got to see it for the first. I would love to see this movie again for the first time, and just be blown away by it.
Yes. So the story for this is pretty much the Joseph Campbell hero's journey, where you have the hero who starts out in a humble place. This time you have Conan, who starts out in his village as a boy, that accepts the call for a grand adventure. He gets rescued from having to push that wheel, and he gets trained in combat. He doesn't I don't know that he takes a wise mentor in this one, at least not until later in the movie, in the form of Mako's character.
He was kind of, as they say, he was a feral beast with no master.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, along the way, he meets different people. He messes up a couple times, gets captured, dies at one point, but then is brought back. And yeah, he ultimately slays the great evil, this time being Thulsa Doom.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a well-told story. In fact, Crit, you described this as pretty much Skyrim the game. So yeah, as far as that, it fits really well. But the story is a simple story. As I said, the hero's journey.
Yes.
But it's told well enough for the setting that it's set in. What do you guys think?
He is the Conan. He is the barbarian. The story is simple, but that is another tale.
And interesting note about Conan. Originally, Mattel was trying to get the rights to produce Conan the Barbarian action figures. Well, unfortunately, things fell apart, and that's how He-Man came about.
Actually, that is a bit of a fallacy. That wasn't how He-Man came about. He-Man was always conceived to be what it was, but it didn't hurt that you had Conan around. It really, really didn't hurt.
So anyways, the characters though, I think is what really drives this movie. So you have, of course, Conan himself, played by Arnold, and this was pretty much Arnold's first major role. I believe the only thing he had done before this was play Hercules, but he was dubbed over by someone else.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways,
Hercules in New York, to be exact.
Yeah, Hercules in New York. This was like his first major thing, and I think he absolutely crushed it.
Oh, this definitely was the one that gave him his start.
Mm-hmm. Like, of course, I've quoted it a couple different times. Conan, what is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of the women. I can't do Arnold's voice, but close enough.
Come on, you gotta do it. Do it now.
The only thing I can do is the way he shouts when he's struggling against something.
It's not a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
Get to the chopper. So, anyways, yeah, Conan. He's the perfect, strong, silent hero. He doesn't, he's not in it to have discussions on why he's doing what he's doing. He's just literally there to kick butt and take names and shed as much blood as of his enemies as possible. Again, crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of the women. That's not just something he says. He lives that.
That's his creed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Apollo Creed?
Yep.
Apollo Creed.
And of course, other characters in this movie too, like Valeria, who you, Crit, and I think Phil also mentioned multiple times. She kind of proves wrong that back in the day we didn't have strong female characters. Valeria was kicking just as much butt as Conan was, and yet she wasn't doing it in a way that was overbearing. She certainly wasn't lecturing Conan on gender roles or anything like that.
No, even in death, she saved Conan.
Yep. Do you want to live forever?
And the funny thing is just think about there wasn't that much dialogue in this movie, especially between the two of them. In fact, I'm just trying to remember exactly how many lines were actually exchanged between those two, and it comes down to probably the most one. Everything is them acting, the acting that they know each other so well, type of thing, the characters, that is.
I think the one phrase that could probably sum up this movie is actions speak louder than words.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And it's kind of funny. This had kind of a convoluted start. It actually started off as a science fiction post-apocalyptic film. The future. That's where, if you ever take a look at the credits there, they have Oliver Stone is listed in there as one of the writers. And I think that was one of the things that they were taking it, and then they started looking at Robert E. Howard's work and go, hey, why don't we do this instead? So it kind of had one of those convoluted little steps to going to becoming the film that we have now on there. But I mean, from the costuming, the swords, everything. I mean, the music. Oh my word, the music.
Yes, the music is amazing.
How can that not be that?
Yes.
I would love to see this in a big screen with the modern
IMAX.
sound
Oh,
systems.
that would be beautiful.
I would like
would.
to see it in IMAX and Dolby Cinema.
Do they ever re-release this movie for like anniversaries and such?
No, I wish they
No,
did.
They should.
You should look out for Fathom Events, TCM.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This would be definitely one that worth it. Now, oddly enough, the character of Ursula Doom is not a Conan villain. It is a Robert E. Howard villain that he concocted. But he was not a Conan. It was actually called the Conqueror, who took place, I can't remember how much before the Conan era. And that was kind of the proto-Conan character. Then Ursula Doom was actually kind of a lick, a skeletal creature, not this snake creature.
Do not forget, in September of 2022, Fathom Events will re-release The Wrath of Khan into cinemas once again for a limited time.
Didn't they do that already with the motion picture?
Yes, but this is The Wrath of Khan, much better, and see you get your money's worth from Khan.
God!
It's just too bad
between
the Admiral is not here.
Admiral, between the time when the original trilogy drank the fandom and the rise of the sequels of Kennedy, there was an age undreamed of, and unto this Paul, destined to wear the jewel crown of Star Wars upon the troubled brow. It is I, his chronicler, who alone could tell you of his saga. Let me tell you the days of the Star Wars guys.
I need to get you to like professionally record that so I can make a channel intro out of that.
Why does Cash like snake eyes? I do not know.
Why?
The heck out of me.
But what a great cast this movie had. I mean, obviously you had Arnold playing on there, but I mean Mako. I mean, what a great actor he was. Rest his soul.
He was.
Max von Sydow playing the king. How outrageous! How such daring! I salute you.
And James Earl Jones as Tulsa Doom. He is. I'm not kidding. I think he's my favorite. He was my favorite character in that whole movie.
I mean, James Earl Jones is still. I mean, obviously, he's still alive and such a great actor, and just how he projected himself.
He might be back tonight, so keep your ears open.
Oh God, pray for us.
What if it's Hayden doing the voice? I am Darth. No, I can't see it.
Anyways, hold on. Getting back on topic.
I am Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan.
We got to get back on topic. But anyways, speaking of Vader though, I'm pretty sure his role voicing Vader got him this part. Don't you guys think?
Yes.
No, I think he got the part because he is James Earl Jones. He was a well-established actor. Already he'd already done so much work and was already well known on there. He didn't need to have Vader to be in the voice, and maybe even though we all know he did the voice of Vader, he was never credited until Return of the Jedi. I think it was just a fact of his presence. You can have someone with a voice and not have a presence on the screen. Honestly, you can have someone who has a presence on the screen and has no voice. James Earl Jones has a presence and a voice.
He does,
and that's what did it for him. And I don't think it was Star Wars voicing Darth Vader that got him this part. I think it was just the fact he was James.
I'm gonna pull up a clip of him in this role. Let me find a good one.
And it was kind of basic as you doing that punching up. It was basically kind of doing a Jonestown type of situation.
Think of this on the Tree of Woe.
Funny enough, that's the clip I was bringing up.
Steel.
Boy, when I searched for steel, and steel meant more to me than gold or jewels.
The riddle of steel.
Yes. You know what it is, don't you, boy? Shall I tell you? It's the least I can do. Steel isn't
That
strong,
smile.
boy. Flesh.
He's just he's having fun with this. He has to be.
There, on the rocks. That beautiful girl. Come to me, my child. That is strength, boy. That is power. The strength and power of flesh. What is steel compared to the hand that wields it? Look at the strength of your body, the desire in your heart. I gave you this. Such a waste. Contemplate this on the tree of woe. Crucify him.
I mean, honestly, look at that presence.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the presence and the voice and how he did that part. My word. Oh. What a great actor.
I just sent you a link to a clip.
I know.
From
I'm
one
not
of
gonna.
my favorite. I know you're not gonna play it. Watch it after the stream.
Oh, okay. I'm not gonna play all of it though. Which, by the way, fun fact: this is Field of Dreams. I've been here. By the way, I've been to the Field of Dreams. It's amazing. But here's the clip.
All right. This is fascinating. It is. But the fact remains is that you don't have the money to bring the mortgage up to date, so you're still going to have to sell it. I'm sorry, Ray. We got no choice.
Ray. People will come, Ray. Come to Iowa, Parises they can't even fathom. They turn up your driveway. I'm not sure why they're doing it. They arrive at your door, as innocent as children, longing for the past. Of course, we won't mind if you look around, you'll say. Only $20 per person. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it. Get as money they have, and peace they like.
Ray, just sign the papers.
Walk out to the bleachers. Fit in shirt sleeves on a perfect afternoon. They'll find you have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines. But they sat when they were children and cheered their heroes. And they'll watch the game. It'll be as if they'd dipped themselves in magic waters. The memories will be so thick that I can flash them away from their faces.
Ray, when the bank opens in the morning, they'll foreclose.
All right, I got to do one more. And this is admittedly before Star Wars. This was my first introduction to Mr. James Earl Jones, The Sandlot. Fun fact, this was also my first introduction to baseball.
Ah.
That was my stepdad's ball. I took it without asking. It was signed by Babe Ruth.
George signed this?
George Herman Ruth? Yeah.
I take it back. You're not in trouble. You're dead where you stand. Hold on. Hold on. Here. I'll trade you.
Now I gotta skip ahead just a little bit here.
Well, why would you trade? That one's all chewed up.
Where is it?
Babe Ruth?
This is the best part.
George? I sure did. He knew me. He was almost as great a hitter as I was. I would have broken his record, too, but...
You went blind.
Yep. I used to crowd the plate so the strike zone almost disappeared. Pitchers hate that. That's the way I played. 100% all the time. Baseball was life. And I was good at it. Real good. And then, one day, a high fast went and pow, lights went out.
I mean, if we
Look
haven't
at
said
that
it,
range.
if we haven't said it enough, James Earl Jones is one of the greatest of all time as far as acting goes.
He's a legend.
Mm-hmm.
And to quote the
Look at
movie we
that
just saw, heroes get remembered, but legends never die.
Mm-hmm. He was...
Get a photo of James Earl Jones from the movie The Great White Hope. Okay, I'll pull that up. But getting back to Conan, James Earl Jones from that movie, just, oh my goodness, holy cow. Okay, I can't just pull up a photo. I gotta pull up a clip of this. This is a movie I have not seen, but after seeing how James Earl Jones looks in this, I need to see this movie. Has anyone else here seen this? The Great White Hope from 1970?
Oh,
Nope.
No.
Long.
Is this the one with his family?
Little old mama. Fried chicken. Ooh, can't wait.
One more question.
Holy cow, he looks so young.
In the history of the ring who's ever had a crack at the heavyweight title. Now, white folks, of course, are behind Brady, the redeemer of the race, and so on. But you, Jack Jefferson, are you the black folk?
Well, I'm black. Hey, look.
I need to see that movie now. Thank you, ActionCom, for recommending that.
You know, James Earl Jones is one person I would love to have record a voice message. This way, you know, he calls your phone. I'm sorry, Master Paul's not in right now.
Well, my friend Ryan Golden does probably the best impression of him. You could just get him to do it. And he sounds like James Earl Jones.
Did he, by the way, voice Vader in your version of The Last Jedi?
Yes, he did. That was him.
Figured.
Yeah.
This is CNN.
But still, that was just, again, we cannot say this enough. James Earl Jones is one of the greatest actors of all time. And I'm not just saying that as a Star Wars fan. I'm saying this just in general.
I mean, you know, him and Mako, again, like I said, another actor who was so great out there. And played so many wonderful roles. You know, you had those two both in there. It's like, oh, how can you not want to watch this?
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun film. It's a violent film. I remember when they had Lights, Camera, Action. It was on Nickelodeon. It was how they make movies, and they actually this was one of the films that they talked about. They said, yeah, this sort is made to squirt blood out, and it's like the blood you can drink it. People are taking classes and drinking the blood because it was made out of like a Kool-Aid type of substance, and so they're showing how all the blood is done in the movie for this Nickelodeon kids how they make movies film. And which made things even more fascinating. Yeah, this sword is designed to make it look like you're going in, and this sword does this, and this one does the spray. But even that opening sequence with Conan, when you have the Thurston the Dune and his goons come in and attack the village, and everyone's basically almost all gone, wiped out, and Conan's out there. Young Conan's out there with his mother. His mother's holding his hand, and she's got the sword. And then just it's not even a graphic scene. It's just that quick move of the sword that James Earl Jones does, and you see the imagery of the head falling off and then the body falling over, and young Conan just standing there and just dumbfounded. It's like, it's like mother, everything's gone, and he's sent off to be a slave. And it's like those such powerful imagery that they had on there, and even a violent death like that, which they didn't show as violent, it really hits you.
It does.
Mm-hmm. And it's sometimes the stuff that you don't see that hits you more than the stuff you actually do.
Oh yeah. And then of course the action, it's hard hitting, it's gritty. The effects, of course, it's no CGI here, it's all practical effects, and how they pulled it off was amazing. Honestly, you know what? Let me bring up real quick my movie ranking list, because I know this was at one point on the list, so let me bring those up. So here's the movie. Here's the list of movies I have never seen. Where is it? Okay, so Conan's right here. So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna make it now Conan the Destroyer, and I'm gonna put under it Red Sonja for Phil, because
Willow should be next. Willow.
Once we're done with Conan. And now to bring up the movie ranking, which has gotten lengthy, by the way. All right, where am I going to put this? I think I'm going to put it between Terminator 2. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to put it under Sonic 2.
High up there.
Any objections?
Nope.
It's your list.
It's your list. Right. I'm not gonna. It sucks, but it stinks. But it's your list. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I think it's a good list. Yeah.
Thank you.
A pretty good list of the stuff you've seen there.
Here's the bottom of it.
I can't believe you put Predator that low, though.
Okay, let me clarify. The fact that Predator is at the bottom doesn't mean I didn't like it. It just means I like everything else above it.
You like Final Frontier more than Predator?
Yes, very much so, because I could laugh at that. Predator was kind of dull compared to everything else.
Dull?
Kill me!
The whole
kill me now!
You didn't like the setup? Like, the whole thing is to trick you into thinking it's a action movie, but it's actually a sci-fi action movie. That's why all the mercenaries in Predator, they're given all the 80s tropes, strong people. But then the whole point is that no, they're being hunted by an alien out of nowhere, and it kind of like it subverts your expectations. Though
Tron's on the list.
Granted, Tron. Oh, I like Tron. Tron 2 is good there too. Tron 2's there, but yeah, stick around. Yeah.
All right, so that's going to do it for us tonight, guys. This was a little bit longer of a stream than we usually do on Tuesdays, but I think this was worth it. So if we haven't learned, what did we learn today, guys? We learned that life can be a dream. We learned that we all look at Deanna Troi and her acting differently, and we learned to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of the women. Oh, and we also learned that we now like Wesley, even though he's gone.
Do we?
Well, anyways, guys, anything that anything that anyone wants to plug before we go?
Oh yeah, this okay, I will be having the premiere this I think this Saturday, my redo of the revitalized Last Jedi will release. So and I'm still editing it. It's kind of clocking in longer than I had thought right now. It's currently at 3 hours, and yeah, a very long film. So if you guys are interested, I will see about sending invites because I've worked very long and hard.
I will likely have to catch it on the replay because I will likely be at work. But if I wasn't, I would be there.
All right.
Baron, anything you want to plug coming up?
Well, I have no idea what I'm going to do tomorrow, to be honest with you. I have no guests lined up or anything. It's been kind of a crazy week and all that. I do want to sit back and say one thing. I got my daughter and her boyfriend are engaged now, so I guess I got, yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like, oh, but it's not surprise. It's not a surprise to me, but it's like, oh, I thought that was kind of surprised that it happened the other day. So, so congratulations to my little Mookie and her soon-to-be husband. He's a good man. So I still have to take him out and talk to him. You have that, that, the father, the bride talk. Of course, you can catch me Saturday mornings around noon Central Standard Time with Gary and Keith with their Saturday fun time on my Culture Minefield. So that's always kind of a fun hoot to have on there. You never know who's going to show up on there. And of course, every Sunday 5:15, 24/7 Fusion Media. Guess what you got? You got the Primetime Kings with 24/7 Fusion Media, Vigilante Williamson, the ever-expanding Fat Steven Seagal, and myself. So, and yes, I do. Well, the sad thing is my daughter has a shotgun too, so we can be easily matched off there together.
Of course. Okay.
So,
and one last question I do have for you, Baron. Do you have any further update on that uniform you're sending me?
I gotta get it out to you. I mean, I fell down, my fault. But I'll get that out to you, man. I got your address. It'll get there. This time, I'm blaming myself for being lazy, so I just gotta get to the post office with the box. And I'm gonna send something extra special because of the delay. So I'm not gonna let you know what it is, but there's something extra because I'm being a schmuck. And you said right here, you can time code this, whatever it is, 3 hours, and 7 minutes. Baron Norman Tag is a schmuck. And I can say that on here, can I?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. All right. And Pacific, anything that you want to plug?
Yes, I will be doing Pop Talk at 8 p.m. Eastern Wednesday night. I will be doing that from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. I will then take a short little break. And then at midnight, it finally comes back after a long 3-year wait. The Orville Season 3 premiere, Electric Sheep, and I will be giving a live reaction to that episode. And I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's going to... I need to get caught up on the Orville so that I can watch it. But, yeah. I'm gonna have to be just be behind on it, but I will watch it. But anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for us tonight. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, and just remember, everyone, the Force is family. See you guys later.
Jajish, or whatever how you say it. Kabwa. Why? Wesley, pull my finger.